fajnie. Very lengthy order of business today, so I would kindly thank everyone for their punctuality and for being here at 9:30, which is the time for which this meeting was convened. Let us now begin. The Secretary has verified quorum, and I now call to order this regular session of the Permanent Council. To begin our work, and in accordance with Article 43 of the Rules of Procedure, I submit for your consideration the draft order of business contained in document CP/OD-2595/26. Seeing no comments, we can proceed to approve this document. So approved. Before we move to the next item on the order of business, and bearing in mind that we, once again, as I said, we have a very lengthy agenda, so I call upon delegations to provide their customary collaboration and to make sure that their statements are not longer than necessary. This will help us efficiently address all of the items and conclude our work at a reasonable time. This will also help the Secretariat process and distribute the decisions that we make today, which need to be sent as soon as possible to capitals in preparation for the General Assembly, which will begin in 5 days. In that vein, I would kindly ask all delegations for their cooperation to please follow Article 46 of the Rules of Procedure for speaking time. The Chair trusts that it will not be necessary to exercise my powers as Chair to extend that speaking time. So please bear in mind that we have a set speaking time for interventions, and it's important that you contain your interventions to that time. We also kindly thank the delegation of the United States for their invitation to attend a brief ceremony on the exhibition dedicated to the Marquis de Lafayette, which will take place at 1 p.m. in Marcus Garvey Hall. I'd like to inform everyone, member states, that we will take a recess at 1 p.m. and we will resume our work at 2:30 p.m. Next item is consideration of the draft resolution, International Day of Commemoration in Memory of the Victims of the Holocaust, within the framework of the Organization of American States, which is presented and co-sponsored by the delegations of Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Guatemala, Honduras, Paraguay, Peru, the Dominican Republic, and Uruguay. I would now like to offer the floor to the permanent representative of Argentina, who will provide a brief presentation on this initiative. Thank you very much. Ambassador Chernik, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, colleagues. At the outset, I would like to note that the delegation of Argentina, along with Brazil, Canada, Chile, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Guatemala, Honduras, Paraguay, Peru, the Dominican Republic, and Uruguay, and I thank all of them. We have the honor to present for consideration of this Permanent Council the draft resolution entitled International Day of Commemoration in Memory of the Victims of the Holocaust within the framework of the Organization of American States. I'd like to recall here that this initiative was presented by Argentina and other co-sponsors at the latest meeting of the preparatory committee. At that time, delegations felt that more time was needed to provide a response. In a very constructive spirit, Argentina proposed that that time be given for due consideration. This flexibility was provided so that this draft resolution could be considered at today's Permanent Council session. This will allow us to move forward constructively, and there will be a greater receptivity to this initiative on the part of delegations, and hopefully it will garner even greater support. This draft resolution aims to create within the OAS an institutional commemoration that will be celebrated every January 27th in accordance with the UN General Assembly resolution that was adopted. My delegation would like to present a document that's very clear and concise and upholds our organization's commitment to commemoration of the Holocaust and rejection of all forms of discrimination and Holocaust denial by creating this institutional commemoration, one that is actually already recognized by the international community. At the same time, we'd like to note that the draft resolution does not seek to create any sort of new initiative with the organization. It is just formalizing a practice that the Permanent Council has already been observing in recent years, and it already has the co-sponsorship and support of many member states and broad political and moral support within our organization. We would like to clearly reiterate that this will not involve additional expenditures in our organization's budget. This commemoration could take place using existing resources within the OAS. To conclude, my delegation would like to once again thank all of the delegations who have co-sponsored this initiative, and we would like to reaffirm that our delegation trusts in this Permanent Council and that we'll be able to adopt this resolution that reaffirms the commitment of our organization to the memory, education, and human dignity and prevention of any form of intolerance and discrimination. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Having heard this presentation of the draft resolution, I would now like to ask the Permanent Council if you are able to approve the draft resolution contained in document CP Doc 6223/26. Seeing no objections, it is so approved. I would like to congratulate the proponent delegations for this initiative, and I thank you all for the spirit of consensus that allow this document to be adopted today. I now offer the floor to delegations who wish to comment on the resolution that we just approved. Paraguay has the floor. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would like to thank the permanent representative of Argentina for the leadership and commitment in promoting this initiative. Today we were able to approve a resolution on the International Day of Commemoration in memory of the victims of the Holocaust. We'd also like to thank the co-sponsoring delegations, including of which Paraguay is a member. This resolution calls upon us to keep alive one of the most painful episodes of human history. We have a collective responsibility to learn from the tragedies of the past and prevent them from happening again. Remembering Holocaust victims is a moral duty and an expression of our commitment to human dignity. By paying tribute to the millions of innocent men, women, and children of the Jewish community and members of other nationalities and persecuted minorities, we reaffirm our rejection of all forms of anti-Semitism, intolerance, discrimination, and hate. The Republic of Paraguay staunchly supports this type of initiative, and we look forward to discussing this at the upcoming General Assembly in Panama. Even though circumstances did not allow for this initiative to follow the original course of action, we are very pleased that this resolution was adopted today, and it reaffirms our organization's commitment to education and promotion of human rights. The resolution that this Council has adopted today designates January 27th as the International Day of Commemoration in memory of the victims of the Holocaust, in line with with the UN General Assembly resolution that was adopted in 2005 and was co-sponsored also by Paraguay. We feel that this decision is a tangible contribution to efforts to promote and protect human rights in our hemisphere. Preserving the memory of the Holocaust is also a key way to prevent future genocides and mass atrocities. Ignoring or diminishing the importance of these types of events limits our ability to understand them and to sound the alarm when new tragedies emerge. Chair, we would also like to underscore the very valuable work carried out by the OAS Special Advisor to combat anti-Semitism, Mr. Lotenberg. His work has truly helped make us more aware of this issue, promoting education, strengthening dialogue, and creating a culture of harmony in the Americas is a key part of this. We also feel that this role should be strengthened on an ongoing basis within our organization structure because it is a tangible expression of our hemisphere's commitment to fighting anti-Semitism and all forms of discrimination. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ambassador Florentine. I now offer the floor to the delegation of Costa Rica. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning, one and all. Costa Rica is grateful for the presentation of this draft resolution that proposes designating January 27th as the International Day of Commemoration in memory of the victims of the Holocaust within the framework of the Organization of American States. My delegation believes that this resolution is a valuable opportunity to reaffirm the organization's commitment to human dignity, historical memory, and prevention of all forms of discrimination, intolerance, and hate. The Holocaust is one of the darkest chapters of our history. The systematic elimination of 6 million Jews and other groups that were persecuted because of ethnic, racial, political, and other types of reasons reminds us of the devastating consequences that anti-Semitism, racism, xenophobia, and indifference can have when they are not addressed in a decisive manner. For Costa Rica, remembering is not just a mere exercise. It means taking on a collective responsibility. It means educating new generations on the dangers of hate, dehumanization, and discourse that seeks to divide our societies. It also means strengthening democratic institutions and creating a culture of respect for human rights so that atrocities of this type never happen again. At a time when various parts of the world are facing a worrisome increase in anti-Semitism, discrimination, xenophobia, and hate speech, preserving this historical memory is even more important. Efforts aimed at education, research, and awareness raising of the Holocaust is a key tool to promote societies that are more inclusive, respectful, and resilient against intolerance. Costa Rica reiterates its commitment to combating all forms of discrimination. We recently adopted an additional initiative to fight anti-Semitism as part of an international effort to remember the Holocaust. Education and institutional efforts must continue to promote this remembrance. This commemoration has been observed for many years by the Permanent Council, and now it is formally incorporated into our institutional practices. This decision sends a very clear message that the Americas remain committed to historical remembrance, education, and defense of human dignity. We thank the delegations who promoted this initiative, and we are ready and willing to support efforts to adopt this resolution by consensus. Thank you. Thank you very much, Costa Rica. Seeing no further requests for the floor, we now move to the next item on the order of business, which has been requested by the delegations of Uruguay, Bahamas, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, the Dominican Republic, and Suriname. This is the item corresponding to the commemoration of the 20th anniversary of the Spanish Fund for the OAS. This commemoration provides us with the opportunity to recognize an initiative that over the past 2 decades has come to be a valuable instrument for multilateral cooperation to strengthen democracy, human rights, security, and integral development in the Americas. Thanks to contributions that exceed $77 million and have enabled us to implement over 200 projects, the Spanish Fund has supported key programs and mechanisms within our organization. It has thereby contributed in a significant way to the strengthening of the inter-American system. This opportunity also allows us to highlight Spain's commitment to the principles and objectives of the OAS, as well as its ongoing support for the organization's efforts for the peoples of the Americas. And we would very much like to thank the permanent observer of Spain to the OAS, Ambassador Monton. And I would like to inform you that this commemoration is in accordance with the new provisions of Article 46 bis of the Rules of Procedure, which were recently amended. Interventions can be circulated today so that they can be reflected in the minutes. We will now show a video that was pre-recorded by Ambassador Edison Lanza, the permanent representative of Uruguay, who is joining us in his capacity as chair of CIDI. We would kindly ask the Secretariat to show the video of Ambassador Lanza. Madam Chair, it is an honor to take the floor at this time, as this is a very important date for American multilateralism. This is the 20th anniversary of the creation of the Spanish Fund for the OAS, or FEPO. On my own behalf, and on behalf of the distinguished representatives of Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Guatemala, Mexico, the Dominican Republic, and Suriname, this commemoration brings us together to remember and recognize the value of a strategic partnership, which over 2 decades has become stronger and is a key instrument of international cooperation for the Americas. Since its creation, the Spanish Fund has played a key role in strengthening democratic governance, institutional development, and promotion of the principles that underpin the inter-American system. Through this fund, over $77 million have been provided to implement over 200 projects in Latin America and the Caribbean. However, its true impact goes beyond the numbers and is reflected in its tangible contribution to the democratic life of our peoples. We should recall its historic and strategic importance. Spain emerged into democracy at the end of the 1970s and focused on its relationship with the Americas and focused its cooperation so that there were deeper historical and cultural ties between the regions. It has supported electoral observation missions, which have supported various democratic processes in the region. There is also the Civil Identity Program in the Americas, which was supported and granted the right of identity to thousands of people. Spain has also supported the peace process in Colombia, and its support has been key in bringing back stability to our brother republic. The Spanish Fund has also provided ongoing support to the inter-American human rights system, including the Court and the Commission, and the Special Rapporteur, Redesca, which reflects a shared commitment to human rights and the rule of law. Similarly, its support for SIM underscores the importance of gender equality as a key pillar of our democracy. Madam Chair, the track record of the Spanish Fund for the OAS shows that this is a cooperation based on trust, solidarity, and a commitment to the values of multilateralism. It is therefore appropriate to recognize the role of Spain as a permanent observer, which has increased its cooperation with the organization in recent years. By commemorating this 20th anniversary, we renew our commitment to the principles that bind us and to support this valuable partnership that we celebrate today. The achievements that we've made are a solid foundation to continue moving forward towards a future with greater stability and a stronger democracy for our hemisphere. Thank you. Thank you very much to the delegation of Uruguay for providing for Ambassador Lanza's participation today. I am very pleased to offer the floor to the Ambassador and Permanent Observer of Spain to the OAS. Ambassador, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. At the outset, I would like to thank the Chair for including this item on today's order of business, and especially the missions who allowed us to commemorate here at the Permanent Council the 20th anniversary of the Spanish Fund for the OAS. On this significant date where we celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Spanish Fund, I would like to express our satisfaction with the work that has been done and the commitment of the OAS and member states. Spain is honored to be the Dean of the Permanent Observers since 1972, when it joined the broader family of the American states. It is one of the main external donors to the OAS, and it has one of the strongest cooperations of all the permanent observer states. In 2026, our financing mechanism that is the most important, which is the Spanish Fund for the OAS, or FIPO, it is commemorating 20 years of uninterrupted horizontal and transparent cooperation focused on results. It was created in June 2006 through an MOU between the Spanish Agency for International Cooperation and Development, ACID, of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the European Union, and the OAS General Secretariat. Since then, Spain has provided over $77 million, which have financed over 200 projects and activities that have had a direct impact on the lives of men and women in the Americas. Through this fund, Spain has supported the EOMs, the Program on Civil Identity in the Americas, the mission to support the peace process in Colombia, the mission for the adjacency zone between Belize and Guatemala, as well as a health program developed by CICAD and the Inter-American Human Rights System, the Court, as well as the Commission, and Redesca, the Special Rapporteur, as well as SIM. This is a model that has been sustained over time and has become a best practice, as well as a model that can be repeated by other actors. This model has shown that Spain trusts in the OAS, and Spain is betting on multilateralism. In June 2025, Secretary General Ramdin participated in an international conference on development financing held in Seville, the 4th international conference. During this conference, we renewed our commitment to use 0.7% of GDP for international development aid by 2030, and to receive the support of our King, Philip VI.
Spain's voluntary contribution to the OAS was renewed 2026 and reaches 200 million euros. Moreover, last April, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister Alvarez, signed with the Secretary General a new agreement. This is for cooperation to be channeled through EFI to buttress bilateral political dialogue. It's also necessary to show in our words today a sincere gratitude for these 20 years of shared work to promote democracy, human rights, multidimensional security, and integral development of the peoples of the Americas. This statement gives me an opportunity at a time of loss of ground and great challenges in multilateralism to reaffirm Spain's firm commitment to the Organization of American States and its member states, and to further reaffirm our determination to continue strengthening our cooperation. Lastly, let me take this moment to extend an invitation to everyone for this evening at 7 p.m. to also bid farewell to our dear friends, the chair of the Permanent Council, Ambassador Solano, and Ambassador from Canada, Ambassador Stewart. I have not had an opportunity to say it in public before, but I wanted to state it for the record. Again, 20 years, and Spain owes this last part of it much to you. And also to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, on behalf of the European Union and Spain's cooperation, would like to say that they very much appreciate this format and the dialogue. Thank you. And here he is. Cooperation between Spain and the Organization of American States is based on a fundamental pillar. Through the fund, Spain has supported more than 200 projects that had deep impact. We've supported the peace support mission in Colombia, and we've also supported electoral processes with observation missions to observe elections in countries throughout Latin America. Over the course of these years, we have always put people at the very center. We support the Inter-American Human Rights Court, Commission, and the Special Rapporteur on economic, social, and cultural rights and environmental rights. This is support that made it possible to expand access to justice, to reach the most vulnerable, to make progress in fundamental rights such as water, the environment. We have always driven gender equality through the Inter-American Commission on Women. Last year, Spain renewed its commitment with a contribution of 200 million euros to continue supporting peace and democracy and human rights. The relationship between Spain and the Organization of American States is based on shared values, but it's also based on the conviction that together we can build fair, free, just societies. 20 years later, the Spanish Fund is more than just a fund. It's a living partnership that transforms lives, that strengthens institutions, that sows the seeds of hope. And it is also a promise for the future. We'll continue walking together towards democracy, for human rights, and for peace in the Americas. Thank you very much, says the chair, Ambassador Monton, for those words, for your kind invitation. And we'd also like to, on behalf of the Permanent Council, thank you for Spain's commitment to the OAS and its contribution through the Spanish Fund, which have, in a sustained manner, supported the work of the organization throughout the hemisphere. We would also like to thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the European Union and Spanish Cooperation, Don José Manuel Alvarez Bueno, for his statement. This statement in this commemorative act reflects his country's support for this organization and the values that we all share. To conclude, it's my pleasure to now give the floor to the Secretary General of the OAS, Mr. Albert Brandin. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for your leadership. Muchas gracias, Presidenta del Consejo Permanente. Buenos días a
Thank you very much, Madam Chair of the Permanent Council, distinguished guests, observers, Permanent Representative Ambassador Carmen Monton, Permanent Observer of Spain to the OAS, would like to extend cordial greetings to you and express gratitude to you and to Minister Alvarez and the Spanish government. Today we recall the generous spirit of Spain, and with which they have supported us for 20 years. As the first permanent observer, Spain began its support. It was also the first country to establish a specific fund earmarked for the OAS and has thereby promoted regional cooperation and supported the organization. Thank you, Ambassador.
As one of the OAS's most steadfast and trusted partners, demonstrating that true commitment is measured not only in resources, but in constancy, trust, and a shared investment in the future of the people of the Americas. FEPO, as the acronym sounds for the fund, is the most emblematic example of collaboration between the organization and its permanent observers. For 2 decades, Spain has demonstrated a firm commitment to the values of the inter-American system, supporting member states in promoting democracy, defending human rights, strengthening institutions, advancing security, and integral development. The engagement with the Americas has been observed in Spain's commitment to listen, to learn, and to respond to the region's needs. The head of the Spanish Cooperation Agency was here in March and told our member states that Spain has learned how to do development cooperation in Latin America and the Caribbean based on that experience of engagement. Another testament to Spain's commitment to the OAS and the Americas is the constant dialogue with the General Secretariat and member states, the priority given to our region at the highest levels of government. Since taking office, I have met His Majesty King Felipe VI, the Minister of Foreign Affairs Alvarez, State Secretary Sumelso, and the head of the Cooperation Agency several times. Their engagement reflects that Latin America and the Caribbean are at the heart of Spain's global vision and makes our partnership exceptional. Over the past 20 years, Spain has contributed more than $77 million to 200 initiatives of the OAS. We appreciate the most recent contribution of €2 million, which funds the implementation of 9 initiatives that support our core mandates. And I wish to recognize some of them at this point. First of all, in strengthening democracy, Spain is one of the main strategic partners supporting peace, election observation, and civil registration initiatives in the Americas. The support for the mission to support the peace process in Colombia has been mentioned and has continued to strengthening the negotiating processes through peaceful building initiatives in the country. The promotion of youth dialogue in the Belize-Guatemala adjacency zone, supporting a community radio station, a binational podcast, and new youth-led projects. Support to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights for the protection of human rights defenders. In the area of women's rights, Spain has been a key partner on issues of women's political leadership, digital democracy, and cybersecurity. This firm engagement is also reflected by Spain's leadership and advocacy in strengthening cooperative relations between Europe and the Americas. In April of this year, I had the opportunity to launch and co-chair the high-level dialogue with Spain, where we reviewed the opportunities to continue working together on issues of mutual interest. It's the first with a permanent observer state. In this spirit, Ambassador Monton, we have to mention, you have been an unwavering advocate for the OAS and a tireless champion of Spain's engagement with our organization. Your leadership has helped strengthen a partnership that stands today as a model for international cooperation. As a symbol of Spain's commitment to the OAS and to the people of Americas, it is my honor to present to you shortly the commemorative plaque marking the 20th anniversary of the Spanish Fund for the OAS. May it serve as a testament to 2 decades of partnership. Con nuestro más profundo
With our deepest gratitude, dear Ambassador Monton, we present this plaque to you, to your government, and the people of Spain. Thank you.
Vamos a hacer entrega de la placa.
We will now hand over the plaque, and I would just take a moment for this and also to take a photo of this moment.
Muchísimas gracias por la...
Thank you very much for your patience. This chair would like to join in recognizing the very significant role of the Spanish Fund for the OAS FIPO. It has played this key role for over 20 years in supporting the mandates and programs of our organization, thereby contributing significantly to bolstering inter-American cooperation and the development of our institutions. I close once again highlighting the leadership of Madam Carmen Monton. Thank you for your professionalism, your friendship, and the effectiveness with which you have supported the programs and initiatives. And again, thank you to the Kingdom of Spain. We'll continue with our agenda. Our next item of the agenda, we will now have the report, the annual report for 2025 for the Office of the Ombudsperson. The report was distributed to all delegations under document CP Inf 10977/26. I see we already have this. I'm very pleased to give the floor now to Madam Neda Perez, who has joined us. She is the Ombudsperson of the Secretariat. Doña Neda, welcome, and you have up to 7 minutes to provide us with your report. Thank you.
Señora Presidenta del
Madam Chair,
from member and observer states and respective delegations, Secretary General Albert Randin, Assistant Secretary General Laura Hill, colleagues, interpreters, I am pleased to present the highlights of the Office of the Ombudsperson and its 2025 report. To provide context about the topic to new ambassadors and representatives, I will briefly go over the main background. The Office of the Ombudsperson was created in 2015 by the Permanent Council with powers given by the General Assembly to restructure the Secretariat with a strategic vision centered on austerity, transparency, and permanent accountability. The legal framework of the office includes the resolution of the Permanent Council that created the office as one of the 4 oversight bodies within the General Secretariat and reporting directly to the Permanent Council. General Standards, Chapter 3, Subchapter H, Ombudsperson, approved by the General Assembly in 2019. Internal policies and fundamental principles of the ombuds profession: confidentiality, impartiality, independence, informality, justice, and equity. The office does and has always adhered to the fundamental principles. Informality means that it is an off-the-record resource, different from the formal channels, the Office of the Inspector General, the hearing officer, the tribunal, and the auditing committee. The Office of the Ombudsperson does not notify the organization, but serves as an alert or early warning system and can provide non-binding recommendations at all levels. The four mechanisms available work within their legal framework as they complement each other to prevent, address, and mitigate potential and future risks. The Office of the Ombudsperson is the only off-the-record or informal mechanism. The most relevant highlights of year 2025 is that the office reached its first decade. Some milestones of this decade include the first external and independent competition for the Ombuds position in 2018, General Assembly's approval of Subchapter H, and the baseline of the biennial comprehensive survey in 2019, support to all human capital during the pandemic, OAS Ombuds certification by the IOA in 2021, and recertification as an organizational ombuds in 2025. The Ombuds is open to over 2,000 individuals during a calendar year and 1,200 approximately at closing date of December 31st of any given year. It is open to all human capital regardless of the type of contract or location. The office can provide more than 14 services. The most used in 2025 were evaluation of options, actions related to case management, objective comments, non-binding recommendations, meeting facilitation, discussing information about policies. Individual or group case management is only part of what the office does. The services offered, in particularly the identification and analysis of irregularities, gaps, and problematic behavior, enable space for partnership and systemic organizational change. An ombuds office that handles individual and group cases is a good resource. Contribution as an agent of change for an organizational efficiency and effectiveness creates higher standards. As an informal, off-the-record mechanism, it can oversee cross-cutting issues and prevent or resolve conflicts before they escalate when individuals act proactively and collaboratively. It can also identify patterns, trends, emerging risks, and systemic issues. With this information, through early warnings, non-binding recommendations, and collaborative action, it can help reduce human, financial, reputational, and productive costs. By doing this, it promotes a more transparent organization and allows human capital to focus on the fulfillment of their mandates. "2025 case management activities and value added." We serve 106 users and identified 362 issues. This is because several individuals could come with different issues. The main issues were related to evaluative relations, organization, strategy and mission, and career progression. In terms of risk associated with workplace environment, there were 58 occurrences linked to loss of productivity, 57 related to negative publicity, and 30 related to attrition. Among other activities, the office carried out time-sensitive surveys, contributed to the review of the Code of Ethics, created spaces for dialogue, visited MAP OAS in Colombia, and followed up on Alvarez and Marsal and Ombuds Common recommendations. We also provided a follow-up on non-binding recommendations and offered new ones to decision makers. We currently have 28 active recommendations. We always, individually and collectively, as the stakeholders of this organization, have room for improvement. It is important to be honest about it, to promote and make safe spaces for psychological health and safety, emotional balance, and to have some difficult, focused, and conducive conversations which will translate into healthier, more productive, and efficient organization from within to the hemisphere. Thank you for your interest and support to the Office of the Ombudsperson and its capacity to serve not only as the human capital and workplace environment areas, but also to oversee across the Secretariat in adherence to International Ombuds Association Standards of Practice 1.3 by identifying policy gaps, trends, and systemic issues, and providing non-binding recommendations and early warnings to all individuals in the organization to help resolve, mitigate, and prevent inefficiencies, possible risks, and damage. I want to thank the two consultants who are in Argentina, who have helped a lot through all this process and continue to help the office and the organization. The office and I, and my duty as the ombudsperson, I'm always happy to see opportunities for capacity building and collaboration with all stakeholders. And I would be happy to address any questions or comments from the different delegations. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much, Doña Meda, for that presentation, for your report, and for the work done in the office, also human capital of the Secretary General's office. We've also appreciate the one-pager with what you showed us. This very much facilitates our understanding of the work done by the Office of the Ombudsperson at the OAS. And without further ado, I would like to give the floor to member states who may wish to comment or react to the report, Doña Meda's report. Thank you, Costa Rica. Thank you, Madam Chair. Costa Rica appreciates the presentation of the report by the Office of the Ombudsman for 2025. We acknowledge the work done by this office to strengthen institutional integrity, accountability, and good management of human resources of the organization. Their oversight, supervision, and lodging of complaints for conflicts are all key elements in order to guarantee a work environment which is respectful and which is transparent. We take note of the cases reported during the period under consideration. We also take note of the observations made with regard to normative and operational obstacles that the ombudsperson must grapple with. Specifically, we note that the go along with the need to review normative frameworks that have been a decade requiring such an effort, and the deficiencies and the issues around consistencies in the organization. We think it's particularly relevant with regard to the need to set up procedures, strengthen clarity of institutional competencies, and make sure that the claims and investigation departments have the proper resources to carry out their functions. Prevention of reprisal is also a key element in any system supporting institutional integrity. We also value the observations that relate to investigation times and the need to ensure that procedures are not just rigorous and also respectful of due process, but also timely. Excessive delays in resolving cases can impact both the people involved and the credibility of the institutional mechanisms themselves. We would also recognize the importance of functional independence of the office in keeping with the mandates conferred upon the office by member states. It needs to act with objectivity and autonomy, which is key for the proper functioning of an oversight system and for resolution of conflicts within the organization. Costa Rica would finally like to send to the General Secretariat and competent offices and member states and encourage them to work together, to continue to work together to update the normative framework, taking into account best practices internationally and lessons learned from experience from other similar offices. Once again, we appreciate the presentation of this report, and we reiterate our commitment to an efficient, transparent OAS which is respectful of the highest standards of ethics and institutional integrity. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Costa Rica. Le damos
Thank you, Costa Rica. Now give the floor to Ambassador Belli from Brazil. Thank you, Chair. The delegation of Brazil would like to thank Madam Perez for her presentation of the report and for the work done. And we specifically recognize the importance of the role played by the ombudsperson. However, Brazil regrets that the report was not distributed in all official languages of this organization. And for that reason, my delegation is not in a position to be able to take note of the report today. Thank you.
muchas gracias.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'd just like to report that in keeping with the rules of procedure, this chair has been very careful to make sure that documents are distributed in at least 2 languages. That's the regulation, and that's how the ombudsperson's report was distributed. Translations were done into Spanish and into English. However, it's true that it would be preferable to have the documents available in all 4 languages. We would also call for flexibility and to make an effort to work with the resources we have so that within the deadlines set and within the regulations, we can at least comply with documents distributed in the 2 languages of the organization. Of course, it would be ideal to distribute in the 4 languages, and I thank the ambassador for pointing out that it was not distributed in Portuguese in a timely manner. We will attempt to rectify that for future documents when it's possible within available resources. I give the floor to Brazil. Thank you, Madam Chair. Indeed, we're aware of the rules and regulations with regard to distribution of documents in at least 2 official languages. However, when it's about taking decisions on a draft resolution or a decision in the Council, in that case, my delegation would just like to clarify that this Council cannot take note of a report that has not been distributed in the 4 official languages. It can serve for the purposes of discussion or as an input, but just as a resolution cannot be adopted without being distributed in all the official languages. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. We're not talking about an issue that just relates to information. When it's just about information, there's no problem. My delegation says, and I would reiterate, that we are not in a position to be able to take note, fully recognizing that the report was distributed within the rules and regulations. But if the Council has to take note today, we would prefer to wait until the document has been distributed in all the official languages. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador, for that clarification. I'm sorry, you're getting ahead of my ruling. What we're doing today is just make sure that it's received in keeping with the rules and regulations of the Permanent Council. No further. And I would like to thank all other member states. See if anyone else would like to take the floor before we move on. So if there are no further statements, and in keeping with what Brazil just said and bearing in mind the observations of the chair, I'd like to ask the Council if they can take this report is received in keeping with the rules of procedures of this Council. Can we take it as received? Thank you. It is so agreed. And now we will continue. And of course, would like to thank the Ombudsman, Doña Nida. It's very important to work with the most important resource of this organization and protect it. We thank you for your work, and we thank you for all of your efforts in order to improve the environment of the organization, of course, respecting the hierarchy of this organization, the Secretary General, the Assistant Secretary General, to provide an excellent work environment. Thank you so much, Madam Neda. We'll continue then with the next item of the agenda, which is to look at the report of activities during the 2025-26 period of the Inter-American Council for Integral Development. We have a pre-recorded video from Ambassador Edson Lanza from Uruguay, chair of the CD, and he will be addressing the Council through this video with his report. Thank you.
Chair of the Permanent Council, Ambassador Solano, distinguished representatives, permanent representatives, Secretary General Albert Ramdin, Assistant Secretary General Ambassador Laura Hill, Executive Secretariat for Integral Development, Ambassador Isabelle Valois, esteemed colleagues. It is an honor to speak to the Permanent Council today as Chair of the Inter-American Council for Integral Development and to present CD's annual report for the 2025-2026 period, which is contained in the document that was distributed ahead of time. The report covers the activities carried out by this council, its subsidiary bodies, and its executive secretariat during the period between the 55th and 56th regular sessions of the General Assembly. During this time, there were 2 cycles of thematic dialogues. In the second half of 2025, under the chairmanship of Suriname, CD focused on capacity development to strengthen trade in the Americas as a key pillar of development. There were 5 thematic dialogues on facilitating trade, formalizing SMEs and MSMEs, institutional efforts, and human resources. There was also focus on fintech, e-commerce, and a roadmap to develop capacities to improve trade in the Americas. In the first half of 2026, under the chairmanship that I have had the honor to lead, we had various dialogues on development and energy security as a catalyst for sustainable development and economic prosperity in the Americas. We went from discussion to identifying concrete opportunities for cooperation in the area of energy, and inputs will be helpful for the next ministerial on development. We also marked the 30th anniversary of CD and strengthening of its framework and support for ministerial sectoral processes. I'd like to inform the Permanent Council that at its regular meeting on 12 June 2026, CD agreed to submit for consideration by the General Assembly 2 important instruments. The first is a draft declaration entitled Commemoration of the 30th Anniversary of the Inter-American Council for Integral Development, which is also contained in the document that has already been shared with delegations. The 30th anniversary of the Council as the main forum for development cooperation and promotion of integral development is no small feat. The second instrument is a draft resolution entitled Advancing Hemispheric Initiatives on Integral Development, which is also contained in the document that was mentioned earlier. It reflects all of the mandates and initiatives that guide CD's work and the work of its subsidiary bodies. It focuses on the priorities agreed upon by member states. At the same session, the CD approved this annual report and agreed to bring it to the General Assembly for its consideration. I thank all member states for their cooperation and constructive spirit with CD. I would also like to thank the chairs of the high-level ministerial meetings, the permanent missions, and the inter-American bodies. We also would like to thank the subsidiary bodies and the Executive Secretariat for Integral Development and the entire team, as well as the Department of Access to Rights and Democracy and the Secretariat for Legal Affairs, as well as the Office of the Executive Director, which have always been so attentive to CD's needs. We trust that the outcomes of this period will be a solid foundation to continue the Council's work and to pursue our commitment to make CD a political forum for cooperation and building consensus to promote integral development in our region. I thank you. Thank you very much to the chair of CD, Ambassador Edison Lanza, for all of your work. We would also like to commend the vice chair, Ambassador Nestor Mendez, permanent representative of Belize, for all of his work, and of course all member states who actively take part in CD's work. We would also like to thank the Executive Secretariat for Integral Development, SETI, under the leadership of the new Executive Secretary. Thank you very much for sharing your achievements. And thank you also to Executive Secretary Osborne, who also worked during this period with SEDI. Colleagues, as you know, these documents will now move to be considered by the General Assembly. During today's agenda, we are going to hear several reports by chairs, and we would ask for your cooperation. If you need to take the floor, please keep your intervention as brief as possible. You are welcome to take the floor, but only if necessary, and we kindly ask you to comply with the speaking time provided for in our rules of procedure. I now offer the floor to member states who wish to comment on this report. Thank you very much. Seeing no requests, the chair suggests that the Permanent Council take note of the report of activities of CD during the 2025-2026 period contained in document CD Doc 485/26 Rev 2, and to transmit this to the General Assembly. If you so agree, this is how we shall proceed. We take note of the report, and we have agreed to submit it to the Permanent Council, or rather to the General Assembly. I now ask if the Permanent Council can approve and bring to the consideration of the 56th regular session of the General Assembly the following proposals submitted by CD. The draft declaration entitled Commemoration of the 30th Anniversary of the Inter-American Council for Integral Development, CD Doc 486/26, and draft resolution entitled Advancing Hemispheric Initiatives on Integral Development, CD Doc 487/26. It is so agreed. Moving on to the next item on the order of business. This is the report of activities during the 2025-2026 period by the General Committee. As chair of the General Committee, I am pleased to present to you the report of activities of the General Committee for the 2025-2026 period. The General Committee was installed on 23 July 2025. During the reporting period, it was tasked with following up on mandates emanating from the General Assembly and consideration of annual reports from the organization's organs, agencies, and entities. In accordance with those mandates, the committee held 2 working sessions, April 29, May 27, 2026. With respect to annual reports, the committee examined the reports from the Inter-American Institute of the Child, the Inter-American Committee on Telecommunications, and the Pan-American Institute for Geography and History, as well as the Inter-American Commission on Women. Delegations recognize the work of these bodies and underscore their contributions to strengthening hemispheric cooperation in their respective areas of action. In all instances, the committee agreed to take note of the reports, and to submit them to the Permanent Council as provided for in the organization's charter. The committee also followed up on implementation of Resolution 3036, entitled Facing the Serious Mental Health Crisis in the Americas. To that end, we received a report from the Inter-American Group on Mental Health, as well as a presentation by PAHO on regional strategies to tackle this challenge. Delegations reaffirmed the importance of continuing to strengthen hemispheric cooperation in this area, and the committee took note of the progress made and actions planned to provide continuity for this mandate. The committee also contributed to the review process for the OAS Strategic Plan 2026-2023. To address a request by member states, it was agreed that we recommend the creation of a working group tasked with studying the plan and to make additional contributions to it if needed. This recommendation was welcomed later on by this Permanent Council. Furthermore, the committee considered 2 draft resolutions presented by the delegation of Costa Rica, which had to do with amending the rules of procedure and statutes of the Inter-American Committee for Telecommunications and the priority role of CTEL in developing telecommunications and ICTs. Both draft resolutions were submitted to the Permanent Council and then submitted for consideration by the 46th regular session of the General Assembly. I'm pleased to inform you that the General Committee fulfilled all mandates entrusted to it thanks to your invaluable collaboration. This facilitated dialogue amongst member states, follow-up of mandates for the General Assembly and Permanent Council, as well as consideration of the reports from the organs, agencies, and entities of the organization and other topics that are important to the hemisphere, such as mental health. Before I conclude, I would like to express my gratitude to all delegations for their constructive participation. I'd like to thank the authorities and representatives of the organs, agencies, and entities that appeared before the committee. I thank the General Secretariat, particularly the Secretariat of the Permanent Council and the Department of Conference and Meetings Management under Ambassador Laura Hill, as well as all of the support that we've received for the General Committee. Thank you so much for your support, and we thank all of the people working in the Department of Conferences and Meetings Management, all of the conference specialists and assistants, and everyone who helps us with interpretation during these meetings. Thank you so much for all of your work. Without further ado, I'd like to offer the floor to delegations who wish to take the floor and speak on this particular item. Thank you very much, everyone. Seeing no request for the floor, the chair suggests that the Permanent Council take note of the report of activities for the General Committee during the 2025-2026 period, contained in document CPCG 215026, and to submit this report to the General Assembly. Seeing no objections, we will proceed and approve this document. So approved. The next item is the report of activities for the CHAP. We will now consider the report of activities by the CHAP for the 2025-2026 period. I would like to welcome and offer the floor to Mr. Pedro Aurelio Andrade, alternate representative of Brazil and first vice chair of the CHAP, who will give this report on behalf of Ambassador Edison Lanza. Thank you very much, Chair. I am taking the floor on this item of the order of business as first vice chair of the CHAP to present the report of activities during the 2025-26 period. This report was distributed and was considered this past June. It covers the activities carried out to fulfill the mandates entrusted to us. It is contained in the aforementioned document. As you are all aware, after Ambassador Edison Lanza was elected chair of the CHAP in August, the CHAP began its work in September 2025, and I became first vice chair. There is the second vice chair, the alternate representative of El Salvador. On that same date, the CHAP approved its work plan and calendar of activities to fulfill the mandates entrusted to it by the General Assembly. Human rights strengthening, democracy, among others. There were 4 regular sessions held and 2 informal meetings. A total of 16 meetings were held and had interpretation. There is an informal working group to promote a future declaration on the rights of peoples of African descent. That working group met on several occasions, and there were also consultations that were held on other topics. The CHAP has fulfilled all of its tasks entrusted to it by the Permanent Council and General Assembly. It still has to carry out an inventory of mandates, or rather this was done and is included in the report, and it shows which mandates need to be included in the future work plan because of a lack of time or lack of resources. We'd like to also underscore the support of member states for this work, their ongoing participation and constructive spirit, and strong commitment to the CHAP. This is something that really marked the work of our committee. We are very grateful for your collaboration. We would also like to express thanks for all of the areas of the General Secretariat that helped the committee.
Secretary, and Mr. Luis Torres and Jaime Moreno Valle, Interim Director of the Department of Law, International Law. His professional constant support and technical advice contributed to the proper functioning of the substantive work of the committee. The chair would also like to thank 2 people for their excellent work and dedication, which were key to the negotiations in this committee, Ursula Olubaton and Manuel Faziole. These 2 people provided great support to the CHAP and for the Credentials Committee, and also to the informal working group on negotiating the Inter-American Declaration on the rights of peoples of African descent. Would also like to thank all the staff of the permanent mission of Uruguay at the OAS and the chair of Uruguay, the Uruguayan chair who was heading the CHAP. Thus, we were able to successfully put in place the methods and respect them in each session and all activities related to the work of the CHAP in 2025-2026. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, señor.
Thank you very much to the Vice Chair. Thank you very much for this report, which was excellent. And please extend our greetings and thanks to Ambassador Lanza and the delegation of Uruguay. We would also like to thank the second Vice Chair, Ms. Rivera, for her excellent work on behalf of the delegation of El Salvador and as alternate representative. And we'd like to thank all member states for participating in the CHAP's meetings. And we also thank the Department of International Law, which has provided us with excellent legal advice. Thank you so much for your support so that we can achieve these great outcomes that we just heard about. I now offer the floor to delegations who wish to take the floor on this topic. Thank you very much. And once again, congratulations on the report. The chair suggests that the Permanent Council take note of the report of activities of the CHAP for the 2025-2026 period contained in document CP-CHAP 3903-26 Rev 1 and to transmit it to the General Assembly. If there are no objections, it is so agreed. The next item on the order of business is the report of activities for CAP for the 2025-2026 period. I would like to give the floor to Ambassador Benoni Belli, Permanent Representative of Brazil and Chair of CAP. Sir, you have the floor.
In my capacity as Chair of the Committee on Administrative and Budgetary Affairs, CAP, it's my honor to present the report on activities undertaken by the committee during the first half of 2026. Given that this report was distributed to delegations last Friday under document CAAP 4285/26, I will confine my observations to the main results achieved by the committee during this period. During this half of the year, there were 8 formal meetings and 22 informal meetings were held, in addition to the working group meetings, to fulfill the mandates handed down by the Permanent Council and the General Assembly. The topics considered by the committee included the following, which I would like to highlight, which is the draft budget and program for 2027. After extensive consultations and negotiations that took place in formal and informal meetings, the committee brought about a consensus for the year 2027 and on the text of the resolution as a whole. Beyond that, it's also worth highlighting the proposal put forth by the Permanent Mission of Jamaica to strengthen the Inter-American Assistance Fund for Emergency Situation funding. After extensive consultations among delegations, the committee reached a consensus on the draft resolution. Likewise, the committee concluded its work on priority issues in the administrative statutes. Madam Chair, as a result, the committee today puts to the Permanent Council's consideration the following draft resolution: amendments to the statute of the Administrative Tribunal, program budget of the organization for 2027, and strengthening the effectiveness and effect of Inter-American emergency aid from the Inter-American Emergency Aid Fund. In addition, I would like to refer to the draft resolution on funding. The committee agreed to request to this Permanent Council that, acting as a preparatory committee to the General Assembly, in keeping with Article 91C of the Charter of the OAS, that we consider this during the 56th session of the General Assembly. And so I put these 3 draft resolutions to the Permanent Council for its consideration. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. We would like to thank you, and we congratulate you as Chair of CAP for presenting this report and for all of the work carried out by the committee during the reporting period. Thank you, Ambassador, also for all of your work. We would also like to thank the alternate representative of Colombia and Monica Sanchez, the alternate representative of Ecuador, and these are the first and second vice chairs of CAP. Thank you for your excellent work, and congratulations to one and all under the leadership of Ambassador Belli. I'd also like to thank the team of the Secretariat, and I congratulate all of the members of that team that supported this work, as well as the advice provided by the legal department and the office of the executive director. I offer the floor to delegations who wish to take the floor on this item. Thank you very much, everyone. The chair therefore suggests that the Permanent Council take note of the report of activities for CAP for the 2025-2026 period contained in document CP CAP 4285/26, and to submit this to the General Assembly. Seeing no objections, it is so agreed. Agreed. I now ask the Permanent Council if we can address and elevate to the General Assembly for consideration during its 56th regular meeting the following proposed documents submitted by CAP and as described by Ambassador Belli. The first is the draft resolution amendments to the statute of the Administrative Tribunal, CP CAP 4261/26. A draft resolution program budget of the organization for 2027, document CP CAP 4256/26 Rev 10, and draft resolution strengthening the effectiveness and impact of inter-American emergency aid from the Inter-American Emergency Aid Fund, document CP CAP 4280/26 Rev 4. With respect to the last draft resolution, and as was described, the CAP has asked the Permanent Council, acting as permanent preparatory committee of the General Assembly, in accordance with paragraph 91C of the organization's charter, to include that item on the draft schedule for the 56th regular session of the General Assembly. I therefore ask delegations if we can approve the draft resolutions and include the item related to the Inter-American Emergency Aid Fund on the schedule for the 56th regular session of the General Assembly. Do we all agree to proceed along those lines? Thank you very much for your understanding. Seeing no objections, it is so agreed. Agreed. Next item is consideration of the report of activities during the 2025-2026 period by the Committee on Hemispheric Security. Since the chair of the CSH is not here, and with the indulgence of the chair, we suggest making a slight change so that Ambassador Ana Irene Delgado can join us. So we'll put this on hold and move to item 10 in the meantime, which is the report of activities of CISC. Thank you all for your flexibility on the order of business, and we will now move to item 10, report of activities by the Committee on Inter-American Summits Management and Civil Society Participation in OAS activities during the 2025-2026 period. I would like to welcome and offer the floor to the distinguished Ambassador Mayerlin Cordero Diaz, Permanent Representative of the Dominican Republic and Chair of CISC. Ambassador, thank you for your flexibility. I now offer you the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you very much, Chair. On behalf of the Committee on Inter-American Summits Management and Civil Society Participation in OAS activities, CISC, I am pleased to present this oral report on the activities carried out during the 2025-2026 period, which you can find in the report published as document CP-CISC-1272/26. In keeping with its rules set out in Article 22 of the Rules of Procedure of the Permanent Council with respect to the summit's process and participation by civil society in OAS activities, CISC continued carrying out activities to strengthen civil society participation in the organization's activities and to provide follow-up on activities related to the summit's process. In this framework, we receive reports from the Secretariat on progress made in implementing mechanisms agreed to promote greater and more effective participation by civil society, as well as the broader consultations process carried out to draft the proposed guidelines for participation by civil society organizations in OAS activities. which was in line with the course of action approved by the committee during the reporting period. To follow up on that course of action and in accordance with Article 13 of the Rules of Procedure of the Permanent Council, CISC created a working group to consider the proposed guidelines prepared by the Secretariat. Delegations continue to study that proposal during the working group in order to move forward with the consultation process and to build consensus on this important initiative. The committee also held a special session, a dialogue to strengthen civil society participation, in preparation for the 56th regular session of the General Assembly in order to promote more informed, substantive participation aligned with OAS priorities. It also considered documents regarding invitations to civil society organizations that are registered or not registered with the OAS, as well as other social actors, to be brought to the Permanent Council for approval so that they can participate in these regular sessions. In accordance with the roles assigned to it by the Rules of Procedure of the Permanent Council, the committee analyzed and submitted to the Permanent Council requests presented by 41 civil society organizations who wish to be registered with the OAS and participate in OAS activities. And we received updated information on the CSO registry. We also received 2 presentations by the Assistant Secretary General, Ambassador Laura Hill, one on the format for the dialogue with representatives of civil society workers, the private sector, and other social actors, which will be held during the upcoming regular session of the General Assembly. The second presentation was on management of civil society participation in OAS events. With respect to the Summits of the Americas process, I'd like to note that the committee received 2 reports for the department on the Summits of the Americas process on actions undertaken to support and strengthen this hemispheric process in line with the responsibilities entrusted to it. I'd also like to inform you that in accordance with the draft resolution on mandates management agreed to by the Permanent Council and CD, the committee did not consider any draft resolutions to be brought to the General Assembly for consideration during this period. Chair, before I conclude, I would like to express my recognition to delegations for their constructive spirit, cooperation, and commitment demonstrated during this reporting period. This helped us fulfill the mandates entrusted to the committee. I would also like to thank the Office of Civil Society Relations, the Assistant Secretary General, the Department of the Summits of the Americas process for their ongoing technical support. I would also like to thank the Department of Conferences and the Secretariat of the Permanent Council. I also would like to thank the committee secretary, Jose Gabriel Salazar. Thank you so much for your invaluable collaboration in preparing for the meetings and preparing the committee's working documents. Last but not least, I would like to thank my mission staff for their support and dedication in carrying out this chair's activities. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Ambassador, for this report. We'd like to congratulate you on the efforts undertaken during the period under review. And we'd also like to express through you congratulations to and gratitude to Ambassador Leandro Risuto, Permanent Representative of the United States, who served as Vice Chair of the committee, and to the members of CISC for the results achieved. Moreover, we would like to convey our recognition to all the staff who supported this important work, from the Office of Relations with Civil Society, the Office of the Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, Department of Summit of Americas process, all of them for their technical support and ongoing assistance provided to member states, especially you and your vice chairs, in fulfilling these important mandates entrusted to CISC. And I now would like to open the floor for any delegations who may wish to speak to this issue. Thank you, one and all, for your understanding. We'll go straight on then to the recommendation of the ruling, which is to take note of the report of activities by the Committee on Inter-American Summits Management and Civil Society Participation OAS activities for 2025 to 2026 contained in document CP/CISC 1272/26, and that it be sent to the General Assembly. If there are no objections, it is so agreed.
Acordado. Ahora, muchísimas gracias. Me alegra ver aquí a la
Thank you very much, Doña Delgada. Now, we can return to item 9. Thank you one and all for your flexibility. So now we will be considering the report of activities of the Committee on Hemispheric Security for activities during the 2025-2026 period. And I now give the floor to Ambassador Delgada, Permanent Representative Panama and Chair of the Committee on Hemispheric Security. You have the floor, ma'am.
Gracias, señora Presidenta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, in my capacity as Chair of the Committee on Hemispheric Security, it is my great honor to present to the Permanent Council the verbal report on the activities undertaken by the Committee over the period 2025 to 2026. These are reflected in the report published under document CP/CSH-2408 26 Rev 1. The work of the committee was geared to follow-up of mandates that are current, as well as receiving annual reports from the Inter-American Defense Board, the Inter-American Committee Against Terrorism, CICTE, and the Inter-American Committee on the Control and Abuse of Drugs, CICAD, and CICAD. Moreover, the committee remained informed about various projects and initiatives undertaken by the Multidimensional Security Secretary and the board, and the progress achieved in those areas. This was a particularly productive year for the committee, not just because of the traditional topics on its agenda, but also because of being able to begin a process to optimize the methodology for work to consider substantive topics. We are convinced that in a collaborative spirit, which has always characterized our committee, to promote hemispheric security, we were able to bring about a paradigm change in the way we address these issues. With the cooperation of delegations and support in technical areas of the organization, we began to make a transition towards sessions that are more focused on dialogue between delegations, including experts that were invited to speak to these topics, technical experts, with a view to identifying a number of mechanisms that can strengthen technical assistance and implement programs and projects for the benefit of member states. The annual report also contains a section that is dedicated to the optimization process. There it summarizes comments and recommendations made by delegations around 3 main areas. First, the work format. Second, preparation and participation in meetings. And third, coordination, visibility, and establishment of priorities. The document compiles these recommendations and comments and was published under classification CP/CSH-2406/26 Rev 1. And the link can be found in the committee's report. We trust that this will be a useful tool for the work of the next chairmanship of this committee. I take this opportunity to reiterate our full willingness to support the new chair in anything that the chair believes is relevant, with the goal to consolidating the path towards genuine dialogue to create concrete results in areas of multidimensional security which are of interest to member states. And now I'd like to briefly turn to some of the activities undertaken by the committee since the last regular session. Given the limitation of time and given that the report published detailed information on the activities that were undertaken, I will limit myself to highlighting the following. First, the 16th and the 17th of July 2025, The 8th ministerial level meeting on public security in the Americas, MISPA, was held in Santiago de Caballeros in the Dominican Republic, chaired by the host country. On the 14th and 15th of May 2026, in Washington, D.C., the 8th meeting of National Authorities in Trafficking of Persons, RTP 8, this was chaired by the delegation of Guatemala. The committee also held annual meetings to consider special considerations with regard to the security of small island states and low-lying coastal areas in the Caribbean Development Region, as well as to address concern in the area of security of member states in Central American integration, SICA. We also had a joint meeting between the CHF and the Board on Women, Peace and Security. Furthermore, 18 regular meetings of the committee were held, as well as one informal meeting. A further 5 meetings were held by the working group to address the issue of trafficking of persons 2024 to 2026. The results of these meetings can be found in the aforementioned published report. Moreover, Madam Chair, the committee received annual reports from CICAD, CICTADE, and the JID, in keeping with Article 91 of the OAS Charter, and there are links to that in the committee. I'd also like to highlight that as announced by the board on the 2nd of June, we received and published the revised version of the annual report to include amendments to page 36 and 37, which address a program that was upheld by the Multidimensional Security Secretariat and the Government of Ecuador. The committee also agreed on a new measure to promote trust and security, which was conveyed by the chair of the 11th meeting on measures to promote confidence and security, previously approved by the Council of Delegates of the JID. This will be put to the consideration of the General Assembly in 2027 by way of an omnibus draft resolution, which the CSH is preparing for that regular session. The measure was approved and published as document CP/CSH 2123-22, Rev 1, Add 1. Turning now to preparing to the 56th regular session of the General Assembly, which is to be held in Panama, I'd like to report that under draft resolution mandate management agreed by the Permanent Council and the Inter-American Council for Integral Development, the committee did not consider any draft resolutions. Madam Chair, distinguished colleagues, before concluding, I'd like to convey my most sincere gratitude to all those people and institutions who contributed to the fulfillment of the responsibilities and meeting the goals of the committee during this session. I'd like to especially thank the members of the Bureau, the first Vice Chair, distinguished Ambassador Carlos Cherniak, Commander Kelly Anborn Jessen, and Madam Patricia da Costa, second and third Vice Chairs, respectively. I'd like to thank them for their leadership, their cooperation and commitment at all times. I'd like to further express my recognition to the delegations of member states and ambassadors for their active participation and constructive spirit. I'd like to thank the Secretariat of Multidimensional Security, the Inter-American Defense Board, the Inter-American Defense College for their worthwhile contributions technically, the Department of Conferences for services provided, and the speaker was cut off, notes the interpreter.
Embajadora,
Ambassador, says the chair. We allotted 7 minutes for each statement, and out of courtesy, I'll give you 1 more minute to finish. Microphone for the speaker. Finally, I would like to thank the Permanent Mission of Panama, Ms. Carlos Ibarra and Major Rodriguez, for their invaluable support provided during this session. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. We'd also like to congratulate you for your work at the helm of the Committee on Hemispheric Security, for presenting this report, and for all the work during the period under review. We'd also like to congratulate you and extend our gratitude to Ambassador Carlos Chitna with our full recognition for the support he provided to the chair, and to Commander Kellenburn Jensen, who's the alternate representative of Trinidad and Tobago. We'd like to thank him for his work and support. And finally, the third, no less important, third Vice Chair, Patricia Costa, all of whom who contributed to the work of the chair and who were vital to it. We'd also like to express our gratitude to the Secretariat of Multidimensional Security, the Inter-American College of Defense, Inter-American Defense Board for their substantive support provided so that all the issues addressed by the committee could be done with the greatest rigor and technical detail. We will now give the floor to states. If any member state would think it's necessary to speak at this time, the floor is open. Thank you, one and all. There are no requests for the floor. The chair therefore suggests that this permanent council take note of the activities report of the Committee on Hemispheric Security for the period 2025-2026, as set forth in document CP/CSH-2408/26, and that it then be conveyed to the General Assembly. As there are no objections, it is so agreed. And we will now continue with item 11 of our order of business. Now we will be considering proposals for the 56th regular session of the General Assembly, as well as other draft resolutions that were negotiated within the Permanent Council and within other bodies as the most efficient way possible to move forward. And given the fact that the formal and informal negotiations were concluded before this session, the chair is suggesting to delegations that very brief presentation be made on the state of the respective draft resolution. I would underscore that these statements need to be very brief with a view to facilitate decision-taking in the most expedited manner possible. I would also invite other delegations to speak only if it's necessary. This is not the proper space for any considerations that would be political in nature or to state positions with regard to one or another draft. The goal here is not to reopen negotiations. We have already commented in informals and informal informals. What our goal is now is to adopt clear decisions with regard to each draft resolution under consideration so that it can be sent to the plenary of the General Assembly, or so that it can be sent when we were not able to achieve a consensus, it could be sent to the General Committee in Panama to continue with the quest for a consensus as soon as possible and in the best interest of all delegations. This chair would like to thank all delegations for their cooperation. That has been very constructive, very professional. I'd like to thank you for all the work done in support and along with the Secretariat. And having said that, I will now give the floor to the delegation of Panama to please refer to the state of play for the Panama Declaration, firm multilateralism in defense of democracy, hemispheric security, and stability in the American states, as set forth in document C/Doc 6208/26-Rev 4. I now give the floor to the Ambassador Delgado from Panama.
Muchas gracias, señora.
Thank you, Madam. The Permanent Mission of Panama would like to thank all delegations for their active participation in the negotiations that took place around the declaration in question. And we'd also like to thank the Chair of the Permanent Council and the Secretariat for all of the support provided throughout these negotiations. The last version of the text was distributed yesterday and reflects the advanced state of negotiations reached on Monday, 15 June. Despite efforts undertaken, there are still open paragraphs in this draft declaration. We would like to thank you ahead of time for your flexibility in order to achieve consensus during the General Committee meeting during the General Assembly to be held in Panama so that we can successfully conclude this draft for the Republic of Panama. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador. And we'd like to thank the entire mission of Panama for your leadership in this negotiation of this important draft. As we just heard, there are still some pending paragraphs, and we do not have an entirely agreed upon paragraph. There are still some open paragraphs, and that's why the chair is suggesting that this permanent council take note of the draft declaration of Panama, firm multilateralism in defense of democracy, human security and stability in the American states. And it will then be sent to the plenary of the 56th regular session of the General Assembly with the recommendation that it be addressed in the General Committee as is appropriate. I now give the floor to Brazil. Thank you very much, Chair. We have a suggestion with regard to sending it to the General Assembly. What would be the General Assembly? What's being referred to the General Committee? Just sending the parts that were not agreed upon. That way we would just have some paragraphs that were agreed outside of the negotiations and discussion. That way we can move more quickly through the other. We've done that in the past with similar cases. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, señor embajador.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. My recommendation is that the text go as is, because we cannot discard the possibility there might be commitments in the agreed upon text. It's the document as a whole is not agreed. So my recommendation would be that we sent the draft as it was currently presented by the delegation of Panama. So there's no prejudice to all possibility, and every possibility would remain open on the negotiations, and that would be, of course, with your blessing, Ambassador of Brazil.
Dicho lo anterior,
Having said that, we will now proceed to referring this document as it was referred to us by the Permanent Mission of Panama to this Permanent Council so that it can be considered during the General Assembly, and it will go to the General Committee. With the support of the Permanent Council, we will proceed as agreed, if this committee agrees. It is so agreed. Now, we will consider the draft resolution entitled Installation of the Credentials Committee of the Organization of American States, referred by the chair of the Committee on Political and Juridical Affairs to this Permanent Council. This document, my understanding is, I'm not sure if anyone's planning to make a statement about this resolution at this time, but our understanding is it does not yet enjoy a consensus. However, despite the efforts of the chair and even some of the member states, we have facilitated spaces for negotiations, informal negotiations. Unfortunately, as you all know, the text still has some irreconcilable positions within it, despite efforts of this chair and other delegations. As a result, the chair suggests that the Permanent Council take note of the draft resolution, which is under your consideration and which was distributed earlier under document CP Doc 6206/26 Rev 2. And we will refer it as it stands to the plenary of the 56th regular session of the General Assembly, with the recommendation that it then be referred to the General Committee for its consideration and quest for a consensus. If there are no objections, I would appreciate your support so we can proceed in that manner. Thank you, one and all. It is so agreed. Now, I will be giving the floor to the delegation of Haiti to please refer Ambassador Jean-François Pierre, make a statement about the draft resolution on support for Haiti-led stabilization and strengthening of the coordination of hemispheric assistance, contained in document CP/Doc 6211/26, Rev 6. Ambassador, you have the floor, sir. up to 5 minutes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Madam Assistant Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, Haiti welcomes with satisfaction the general consensus that emerged around the draft resolution entitled Support for Haiti-led Stabilization and Strengthening of the Coordination of Hemispheric Assistance. For Haiti, Madam Chair, this resolution is much more than a mere diplomatic text. It sends a strong political message of solidarity, of shared responsibility, and of a renewed commitment by our hemisphere to stand by the Haitian people at a decisive moment in our national life. This resolution enshrines a major principle, which is that stabilization of Haiti needs to be led by Haiti, assumed by Haitian authorities, and supported by regional and international support efforts that are more consistent, more coordinated, and oriented towards concrete results. It recognizes the efforts undertaken by Haitian authorities to bolster national security agencies, specifically through the P4000 and strengthening the national police in Haiti. It also supports international efforts in the area of security, which would include the repression forces of gangs, while recognizing the need for respect of Haitian sovereignty, international law, human rights, protection of vulnerable peoples, and accountability mechanisms. This resolution also recalls that the Haitian crisis cannot be reduced simply to a security dimension. It recognizes the need for a political consensus, for democratic governance, for preparation of free and credible elections, for humanitarian assistance, for development, and for institutional strengthening and addressing the deep-seated root causes of the destabilization in Haiti. In this regard, the support expressed in the roadmap led by Haiti for peace and stability calls for greater coordination between the OAS, the United Nations, CARICOM, the Group of Friends of Haiti, and other partners, as well as the creation of a common fund for Haitian stability. These are all signs of significant progress towards a more structured and effective hemispheric action. Madam Chair, Haiti also is very pleased with the attention paid in this text to transparency, control, effective management of resources, and periodic overview. This is key for international support to be able to produce tangible results for the benefit of the Haitian people. If I may now, Madam Chair, I would like to convey Haiti's most sincere gratitude to all the member states who have contributed to this significant achievement. Especially, we would like to recognize Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, Panama, Uruguay, Argentina, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Canada, and the United States for their commitment and their support throughout this process. We would also like to express our deep-seated gratitude to the CARICOM countries whose solidarity is ongoing and most precious to us, especially Barbuda and Antigua, St. Kitts and Nevis, Grenada, Barbados, and the Bahamas for their active support, standing by us as brothers and a determining faction. We'd also like to extend special gratitude to Madam Chair of the Permanent Council for her leadership, her availability, and for her precious support, all of which greatly contributed to making progress with this text in a constructive and consensus-based manner. Madam Chair, delegates, this text reminds us that Haiti does not stand alone. It reminds us that the time has come to move from solidarity in words to coordinated implementation of efforts, to a commitment to results and crisis management towards lasting stability. We receive this with gratitude, but also with a clear sense of responsibility. We remain committed to restoring security, strengthening democratic institutions, creating conditions for free and credible elections, protecting vulnerable people, and to working with all of our partners in a spirit of sovereignty and shared responsibility and solidarity. Our government and the Haitian people, on behalf of us, I thank all of you for your support, for your solidarity, and for your ongoing commitment alongside Haiti. And to conclude, Madam Chair, I would ask two member states, Mexico and the United States, who contributed to ad referendum to 2 paragraphs of the document, if they would be so kind as to remove them so that the resolution as a whole could then move on to the General Assembly for full approval. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Señor embajador.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Pierre, and thank you very much for this request to those states that still have ad refs on paragraphs 9 and 13. Both member states have already asked for the floor, and before I give them the floor, I would like to commend you, Ambassador, on your work on this resolution that is so important for the OAS, and I thank all member states for their constructive spirit and participating actively in these negotiations, which I know ended quite late yesterday in this very room. So without further ado, allow me to give the floor to Ambassador Encinas of Mexico. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. As was mentioned by the Ambassador of Haiti, Mexico participated actively in negotiations on this resolution and listened to the concerns of all delegations, particularly those of the delegation of Haiti, a sister country whose priorities are important to the hemisphere. For Mexico, in order to address the multilateral crisis, multidimensional crisis in Haiti, all realities must be recognized along with the impacts suffered by the population of Haiti, especially those who are living in vulnerable conditions. We deeply regret that this draft resolution that is about to be submitted to the General Assembly omits a reference to gender-based violence, which is already agreed upon language in another resolution on Haiti that was approved by the previous General Assembly in Antigua and Barbuda. This type of violence is harmful to peace in all countries, and this resolution does not identify this type of violence and does not identify it correctly as being a human rights violation. There is also the Convention to eliminate violence against women, the Convention of Belém do Pará. Violence against women should be understood as any action or behavior that is gender-based and that causes death, harm, or psychological damage to women in either the public or private sphere. For Mexico, this is something that member states should not repeat in any other documents. It's an omission that should not be repeated elsewhere. We have other examples of this, and this term should be used to document current realities. This is also related to PAHO and WHO findings with respect to gender-based violence faced by women and girls in our hemisphere. This is 1 out of every 3 women in the region that have experienced some sort of violence. The extreme form of gender-based violence is femicide. Over 3,800 women have been victims of femicide, gender-based murders in our region, and there have been thousands of cases over the past year alone. This is a public health crisis for our hemisphere. It has negative effects on the physical, mental, reproductive, and sexual health of women. Ms. Sekvi has also said that violence against women is not limited to the domestic sphere. It occurs in the political sphere, the digital sphere, and public spaces. It is a growing threat to democracy in the Americas. The systematic use of sexual violence as a weapon used by gangs is an example of how gender-based violence creates obstacles to our efforts to address the multidimensional crisis in Haiti. And when there is no will to name it, it's very difficult to overcome it and achieve peace. UNICEF also notes that in 2025, there were over 8,900 cases of gender-based violence in Haiti. 51% of cases reported corresponded to sexual violence, 60% of which were gang rapes. Mexico respectfully calls upon all delegations to not take a step backward when it comes to approved upon language which is so useful to identify structures of oppression and domination. However, in order for this resolution to move to Panama, we are willing to lift our ad ref, and we ask that this statement be reflected in the minutes of today's meeting, and we would like to reserve the right to include a footnote in the resolution to address this concept in a diplomatic forum, a political one, like the OAS. It is our minimum responsibility and duty to do this to honor our societies. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your flexibility and for explaining the context behind the decision made by the government of Mexico and your understanding of it, and we agree to proceed in this manner. I now offer the floor to the United States.
Good morning, Chair, and thank you very much. The United States would like to lift our referendum to operative paragraph 13 and note that we will be including the following footnote. The United States understands this language to refer to equality of opportunity and the removal of barriers to participation and not to require quotas, preferences, or any other non-merit-based selection or advancement policy. The United States is committed to defending and promoting the human rights and economic empowerment of women and girls, including by protecting the ability of women and girls to engage in all aspects of social, civic, political, and economic life. Thank you, Chair.
Muchísimas gracias a la delegación.
Thank you very much to the delegation of the United States for its flexibility in agreeing to lift its ad ref and for reading the footnote that is going to be submitted for consideration, and this will be included in the terms that you just described. I now offer the floor to Brazil. Ambassador Bailey. Thank you very much. Just very quickly, I wanted to associate Brazil with what was just said by Mexico. Brazil is also going to present a footnote, and it would like to have that be included, similar to the terms provided by Mexico. Thank you, Ambassador. We took note, and we look forward to receiving your text to include it in the document. Thank you very much for your flexibility. I now offer the floor first to Colombia and then Haiti, if that's all right with you, Ambassador Pierre. Colombia. And then we will allow Ambassador Pierre to close the list of speakers. Thank you, Chair. Colombia would also like to associate itself with Mexico's statement. We believe that gender-based violence is an agreed-upon term. It should be included in the text. It is part of the reality that we see in Haiti. So we will also be sending a footnote along those lines. Thank you, Colombia, for expressing your position. I now offer the floor to the Ambassador of Haiti and then to Uruguay. I can give the floor to Uruguay, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ambassador. I'll give the floor to Uruguay. Thank you very much, Ambassador and other delegations who have spoken before me. We would like to echo what was said by Mexico. For us, the inclusion of gender-based violence needs to appear in this resolution in the interest of consensus. We want to move forward because this is a high priority for one and all. We've been flexible. We have agreed to remove that, but we would like to submit a footnote when the time comes. Thank you. Thank you very much to Uruguay for expressing your position, and we look forward to receiving your footnote. I now offer the floor to Ambassador Pierre. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I would just like to thank all countries who, despite the fact that they would like to have a footnote on this resolution on Haiti, have nonetheless understood that the essential point is to have a resolution that prioritizes first and foremost the interests of Haiti so that Haiti can come out of this crisis. I would truly like to thank all member states from the bottom of my heart for your participation in these negotiations on Haiti. And I would like to thank Mexico particularly, as well as Colombia, Brazil, and Canada I'd also like to thank the United States. It was not always an easy task, Madam Chair. We negotiated for 11 hours yesterday, Madam Chair, to negotiate language that there was not agreement on, but ultimately we were able to see that the priority should be given to Haiti. And they agreed to do that, and they agreed upon fundamental language for addressing the crisis in Haiti, and I thank them all very much, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Ambassador. And once again, I commend you on your leadership during the negotiation process. We would also like to echo the words of thanks for the constructive participation by all delegations, and in that vein, the chair suggests that the Permanent Council take note of this draft resolution, support for Haiti-led stabilization and strengthening the coordination of hemispheric assistance, and it will be submitted to the plenary of the 56th regular session of the General Assembly for consideration. And in addition, there will be footnotes as indicated in today's session. Seeing no objections, this is how we shall proceed. Once again, the chair would like to repeat all words of thanks. Thank you all. So agreed. Next, I'd like to offer the floor to Minister Sierra Lea, alternate representative of Brazil, and the representative of the Working Group on Mental Health, and the Minister Joy Lee Davis of Antigua and Barbuda, chair of this group, who will be speaking to the draft declaration on improving mental health in the Americas through intersectoral and whole of government actions contained in document CP Doc 622426, Rev 2. Chair of the working group, you now have the floor. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you on behalf of Brazil, Antigua, and Barbuda as co-chairs of the Working Group on Mental Health. We present this declaration on improving mental health in the Americas through intersectoral and whole of government actions. We would like to express our sincere thanks to all delegations who took part in the negotiation process and who contributed various comments and observations along the way. Their participation shows the importance that they place on this issue, and it allowed us to reach broad consensus. We would also like to thank the Department of Access to Rights, as well as the Technical Secretariat and all who supported our work, because without your partnership, we would not have been able to achieve this. I would like to ask if we can give the floor to Antigua and Barbuda as co-chair, if they wish to make any additional comments. Thank you very much for that presentation. I now offer the floor to the alternate representative of Antigua and Barbuda. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Antigua and Barbuda joins Brazil in thanking all member states for their constructive engagement in the process leading to this draft resolution. Also, we are deeply thankful to the Department of Access to Rights of the OAS and to the Pan American Health Organization for their invaluable partnership and expertise. My delegation commends the chair of the working group, Mr. Ciro Leal, for his exceptional stewardship. It was my great honor to support his chairmanship. Colleagues, this draft resolution is a testament to the power of hemispheric coordination in facing challenges that are common to all member states. It shows that much can be achieved by leveraging the expertise and commitment of the different members of the Inter-American system. The text before the Council is the result of the mandate entrusted to the Inter-American Working Group on Health through Resolution AG-RES 3036 that was adopted last year in Antigua and Barbuda. It includes both the proposed declaration and the extension of the working group's mandate to continue advancing this agenda. The text reflects the collective efforts of member states over the past months and seeks to provide a framework for continued cooperation on mental health in the hemisphere. Madam Chair, we respectfully submit the draft resolution for the consideration of the Permanent Council, and we look forward to its support. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Agradecemos muchísimo.
Thank you very much to the Chair and Vice Chair of the Inter-American Working Group on Mental Health. Thank you very much to the Secretary and all delegations who actively took part in this important process, which fulfills the General Assembly mandate from the General Assembly held in Antigua and Barbuda last year. Based on what we've just heard from the Chair and Vice Chair of the working group, I suggest that the Permanent Council take note of the draft declaration on improving mental health in the Americas through intersectoral and whole-of-government actions, and to submit it to the plenary of the 56th regular session of the General Assembly for consideration. Seeing no objections, we will now proceed to agree to this. Thank you very much. So agreed. I now give the floor to the delegation of Paraguay, Ambassador Florentine. Thank you very much, Chair. Briefly, we would like to thank the coordinating delegations of the Inter-American Working Group on Mental Health, Brazil as Chair and Antigua and Barbuda as Vice Chair. And we thank the Minister as the Chair of Working Group, and we also thank the Department of Access to Rights and to PAHO's staff and everyone who participated in negotiations. The Republic of Paraguay wishes to work constructively and not impede consensus. We supported the approval of this draft document. However, we'd like to express a concern over language used with respect to some of the instruments mentioned, language that we cannot support. So, with respect to this resolution that was approved last year in Antigua and Barbuda, Paraguay would like to present a footnote on this draft declaration, and we would like that to be reflected in the next version of the document. Thank you, Ambassador Florentine, for your flexibility and for mentioning the document that is the basis for your footnote. We look forward to receiving it, and it will be included as requested. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item. I now offer the floor to the delegation of the Dominican Republic to address draft resolution extension of the Decade of the Americas for the rights and dignity of persons with disabilities and of its program of action contained in document CP Doc 6226/26, Rev 1. You have the floor, Ambassador Cordero. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I will present this draft resolution, extension of the Decade of the Americas for the rights and dignity of persons with disabilities and of its program of action. This proposal is the result of a long consultation and dialogue. Significant efforts were made throughout to achieve consensus that was as broad as possible. This extension of the decade and its program of action will enable countries to continue making tangible progress on promoting, protecting, and ensuring the rights of people with disabilities in the Americas, and to continue building a shared hemispheric agenda on disability, which should be a regional priority. Chair, in this context, I would like to express my thanks for the coordination and flexibility of delegations who supported this proposal and helped facilitate its approval. We trust that consensus on this resolution sends a clear signal as to our organization's commitment to the rights of persons with disabilities. And at the same time, it will provide continuity to a tool that has generated concrete benefits for millions of people in our hemisphere. We would also like to thank the Department of Access to Rights and Ms. Mercedes Carrillo for her technical support during the negotiation process. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ambassador Cordero. Thank you. Thank you to the delegation of the Dominican Republic for your leadership in this process. I thank the group of friends of persons with disabilities in the OAS, the Department of Access to Rights, and all delegations who took part actively in this important process to create a resolution for consideration by the General Assembly, as you presented. Based on what you just said, we suggest that this Permanent Council take note of the draft resolution, extension of the Decade of the Americas for the rights and dignity of persons with disabilities, and of its program of action, and to submit it to the plenary of the 56th regular session of the General Assembly for consideration. Seeing no objections, we shall so proceed. So agreed. Thank you, one and all. I now offer the floor to the delegation of Canada, Ambassador Savage, to please present the draft declaration Situation in Nicaragua, document CP Doc 6221/26, Rev 4. Ambassador Savage, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Chair. Canada and Chile, as co-facilitators of the voluntary group to follow up on the situation in Nicaragua, had the privilege of coordinating this draft declaration on the situation in Nicaragua for its adoption at the General Assembly. This draft declaration is the outcome of an open negotiation process that was inclusive and transparent that lasted 6 weeks. During that process, there were 4 informal meetings that were open to all member states, and at least 19 member states participated in those.
The declaration before you reflects the careful consideration and meaningful engagement of delegations who contributed in a spirit of flexibility and a shared commitment to reaching consensus. We extend our sincere appreciation to all delegations for their active participation and constructive contributions throughout this process that allowed us to reach a consensus on a balanced and constructive text. This draft declaration is fully consistent with prior resolutions adopted by this Council and the General Assembly, and aligns with the OAS's continued focus on the human rights situation in Nicaragua. It is grounded in the fact that Nicaragua remains bound by its international human rights obligations, including under the American Convention of Human Rights, and that the organs of the Inter-American system therefore retain jurisdiction. It reiterates our willingness to engage in a constructive dialogue with the state of Nicaragua, as well as our call for its return to the OAS, and to comply with its domestic and international human rights obligations. We thank all members for their support and engagement in this negotiation of a draft declaration, a declaration which we hope will bring hope and inspiration to Nicaraguans in Nicaragua and around the world. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Muchísimas
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for that presentation and for your description. The permanent mission has demonstrated great leadership. Thank you very much, Ambassador Savage. Thank you also to Chile as co-facilitator of the group, and also to Ms. Luzandom, who very successfully led the 4 negotiation sessions and also worked outside of those sessions so that delegations could reach consensus on this document that will be considered. Thank you once again for all of your efforts. I see that we have a request from the delegation of the United States. I would just like to note that it has expressed its interest in supporting consensus and would like to add a footnote, but I will give the floor to the U.S. to clarify.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, my delegation would like to note that we would like to place a footnote on preambular paragraph number 8 and the text of which will be submitted to the Secretariat in due course. Thank you.
Muchísimas
Thank you very much to the delegation of the United States and to one and all for this spirit of flexibility and solidarity with the people of Nicaragua. We would like to echo all words of congratulations on the work of Canada and Chile and the constructive spirit demonstrated by all delegations on that basis. And given what we've heard from the United States, as well as the presentation given by Canada, the chair suggests that the Permanent Council once again take note of the draft declaration entitled Situation in Nicaragua and to submit it to the plenary of the 56th regular session of the General Assembly for consideration. With your indulgence, we will proceed in that manner. Thank you very much. So agreed. Next, I offer the floor to the delegation of the Bahamas to present the draft resolution amendment to Article 3G of the General Standards to govern the operations of the General Secretariat to establish an annual report on the financial condition and financial health of the organization, contained in document CP Doc 6225/26. Ambassador Namor, you have the floor.
Good morning, all. Good morning, Madam Chair. For the record, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas hereby gives notice of its intention to withdraw Agenda Item 24, entitled Presentation of a Comprehensive and Analytical State of the Organization Report, from the consideration as a standalone item of the 56th regular session of the General Assembly. This action should not be interpreted as a withdrawal of the substance or objectives underlying the initiative. To the contrary, the Bahamas is pleased that the principal elements of the proposals have been accommodated in the draft omnibus resolution entitled Program Budget of the Organization for 2027, which is reflected in operative paragraph 18. My delegation wishes to express a sincere appreciation to Ambassador Benoni Belli of Brazil and the Chair of CAP, and to all member states for their flexibility and cooperation and constructive engagement in facilitating the inclusion of this provision. Chair, the objective of this initiative is to strengthen accountability, transparency, strategic oversight, and institutional governance through the modernization of the organization's reporting framework. Specifically, it seeks to move from a series of separate reporting streams to a more integrated and consolidated assessment of the organization's overall condition. While member states already receive valuable reports, including the financial health report, the information remains dispersed across multiple documents and processes. More importantly, the proposal also envisions that this report is a standing agenda item accompanied by an interactive dialogue between member states and the executives of the General Secretariat. This reflects recognized governance best practices, whereby reporting is contemplated by structured engagement, discussion, and accountability. Accordingly, the Bahamas respectfully requests that this statement be reflected in the record of this meeting and that agenda item be considered withdrawn from the agenda of the 56th regular session of the General Assembly. Chair, I thank you and the Council for its kind attention.
Thank you, Ambassador Namor. Tomamos nota.
We take note of what you just stated, that we're drawing this proposal with attention to the fact that it was already included in the draft resolution entitled Program and Budget of the Organization for 2027, which we have already agreed upon. And I'd also like to thank the chair of CAP, Ambassador Benelli, and all the colleagues who worked towards this very favorable outcome with regard to this initiative. So we take note of the withdrawal. You have the floor, Bahamas.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I crave your kind indulgence and those of the member states. Likewise, the Bahamas also would like to give notice for the record of the intention to withdraw Agenda Item 26, which is entitled Establishment of an Automatic Cost of Living Adjustment, COLA mechanism, from the consideration as a standalone item of the 56th regular session of the General Assembly. The objective of this initiative was not to create any new financial obligation, benefit, or entitlement. Instead, it seeks to promote transparency, predictability, and sound budgetary governance by clarifying and codifying the treatment of cost of living adjustments as a mandatory and recurring element of personnel costs rather than as a discretionary or separate budget consideration. After consultations, it has been useful in highlighting these existing practices and in fostering a common understanding among member states regarding the treatment of COLA within the program budget framework. Accordingly, the Bahamas is satisfied that the objectives have been achieved through the incorporation of these items into the omnibus resolution. And again, we thank member states and we thank you, Chair, for your kind attention.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. We take note, and this will be reflected in the minutes. I would also like to thank you for your flexibility and the explanation you provided to the plenary. We appreciate your efforts, Mr. Ambassador. And further, we agree with your reading of this. Thank you very much. And we will continue now with item 12 of our agenda. The next item of our agenda, and acting as a preparatory committee for the General Assembly, in keeping with Article 91C of the organization's charter, I would ask the Permanent Council if we can now accede to Delegation of Panama's request to grant speaking time of up to 5 minutes to the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, the Regional Director for the Americas, to speak during the 56th regular session of the General Assembly. I see no objections. We will proceed to agree to it. Thank you. It is so agreed. We will now continue with the composition of the Style Committee. In keeping with the order of business and under Article 48 of the Rules and Regulations of the General Assembly, Rules of Procedure of the General Assembly, the Permanent Council needs to establish the Style Committee for the 56th regular session of the General Assembly. To that end, the Chair proposes that the committee be composed of the delegations of Brazil for Portuguese, the delegation of Canada for French, the delegation of United States, Panama for Spanish, and my understanding is we have the blessing of the delegation of the Bahamas who are willing to serve on the committee for English. Thank you very much. And with everyone's approval, it is so composed. This is the Style Committee. Thank you. It is agreed. We continue now with the minutes. The next item on our agenda, I'd like to ask delegations if we are ready to approve the minutes of the Permanent Council meetings 2469, 2470, 2471, 2472, and 2591. As also, once again, acting as the preparatory committee for the General Assembly, can we approve the minutes 443 of the committee's meeting, which was held on the 22nd of May? We will consider it approved with your blessing. Thank you. They are all approved, all these minutes. Now we will move on with the next item, which is to bid farewell to Ambassador Stuart Savage, Permanent Representative of Canada. Distinguished colleagues, Mr. Secretary General, Madam Assistant Secretary General, in addressing this item of our order of business, we find ourselves at a time of deep-seated institutional duality. On the one hand, we have the inevitable nostalgia of bidding farewell to an exceptional colleague in all senses of the word exceptional. And on the other hand, we have the sincere pride of celebrating someone who left an indelible trace in this organization. I take this opportunity to pay tribute to and express our deepest gratitude to the Permanent Representative of Canada, Ambassador Stuart Savage, as he is completing his diplomatic mission before the Organization of American States. Since the time that he took office on the 26th of September 2023, Ambassador Savage not only has embodied the highest values of Canadian diplomacy, but he has also become a fundamental pillar of the work of this collegiate body. His leadership was firm, but always constructive, and he knew how to guide complex discussion with temperance and pragmatism and an acuteness which characterizes everyone in this room can remember with special acknowledgement his very highlighted work at the helm of the Permanent Council as chair last year. It was a period where his equanimity, his unrestricted respect for procedure, and his notable ability to build bridges and create consensus significantly strengthened the institutionality and governance of our organization. Dear Stuart, your management and your position has been distinguished by an steadfast commitment to multilateralism with unlimited defense of the principles, the foundational principles of the OAS Charter. Moreover, your voice was raised in a consistency and with courage to promote and defend everyone's human rights. Your firm conviction in favor of social equity and social inclusion have remained as an indelible imprint from your country with the historical firming of the Belém do Pará Convention, as well as your invaluable efforts in order to promote equity, gender equity, protection of vulnerable people in the Americas. You have left a conceptual legacy and an operational one that will guide the works of this council for many years. We would also like to most especially recognize your active commitment and leadership in following up on the situation in Nicaragua, as we saw in today's session, where you promoted key resolutions to monitor the human rights situation in that sister nation, especially in the context of deprivation of freedom, since House of Canada is a house for many encounters and meetings for Nicaraguan civil society and NGOs. We very much like to thank you for providing that space in the House of Canada. Above and beyond the achievements that we can see reflected in the resolutions and minutes of this council, all of your human qualities will be very much missed. Your warmth, your gentlemanly nature, your sense of caution, and your available willingness to have constant dialogue that is respectful, along with your professional respect and sincere affection from all of the delegations here present. On my behalf and on behalf of all the member states here and the Permanent Council, I'd like to express our deep-seated gratitude for your impeccable work. Thank you for your commitment, your collegiality, and especially for your friendship. Canada was magnificently represented by you over these years. We wish you every success in your future professional and personal challenges, and we are convinced that no matter where your career brings you, you will continue to be an untiring defender of inter-American values. Thank you so much, Ambassador Savage. Distinguished colleagues, as you know, in keeping with subparagraph F of Article 8 of our Rules of Procedure, in the bidding farewell of permanent representatives, only the chair can speak, as well as those who are responsible for coordinating regional groups. So I am now pleased to give the floor to representatives of those regional groups so that they can express their recognition. I'd like to start by giving the floor to Ambassador Encinas from Mexico. Thank you, Madam Chair. The delegation of Mexico, on behalf of the regional group Hedis, would like to affectionately bid farewell, along with our recognition, to Ambassador Stuart Savage, Permanent Representative of Canada to the OAS. Group 10 would like to especially recognize his work as chair of the Permanent Council and his leadership as a co-coordinator of the voluntary monitoring group for the situation in Nicaragua. Under his management, Ambassador Savage led in a prudent, diplomatic, and serene manner. His ability to listen, his political sensitivity, and his ongoing willingness to talk were key in order to have a respectful and serious dialogue. At complex moments, his work helped to maintain open the channels of communication, to build understanding, and to create an environment of respect amongst delegations, along with his diplomatic career, all of which qualities are recognized by the members of my regional group G10. Ambassador Savage, your passage through the OAS is leaving a mark of professionalism and multilateral vocation. We wish you every success at the next stage of your life, and we are sure that you will continue contributing in any space in which you are working with serenity, intelligence, and commitment, all of which characterized your work as a member of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Canada and as a member of this organization. Thank you and good luck. Thank you, Ambassador Messinas, for those words. We now give the floor to the coordinator for the Central American and Dominican Republic, Ambassador Cordero. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my honor to speak on behalf of the delegations Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Panama, and the Dominican Republic. We wish to express our most sincere gratitude to our dear friend, Ambassador Stuart Savage, Permanent Representative of Canada to the Organization of American States, at the conclusion of his functions in our organization. While he was here, Ambassador Savage distinguished himself by his professionalism, his spirit for dialogue, and his firm commitment to the principles and values that underpin the inter-American system. His diplomatic trajectory is marked by broad experience in our region, and it made it possible for him to fulfill his responsibility with deep-seated understanding of the challenges and opportunities that our countries face. We'd like to highlight most specifically his leadership, which he exercised with attention to a number of the most complex situations that our hemisphere has had to grapple with in recent years. His commitment to defending democracy, the respect of human rights, and the strengthening of democratic institutions, as long as his respect of state sovereignty, are all reflected in his active participation and his leadership in the mechanisms and voluntary groups for monitoring dedicated to the situations of Venezuela and Nicaragua. In those spaces, he promoted dialogue, the quest for consensus, and collective action of member states, always based on the conviction that democratic challenges in our region deserve firm responses that are constructive and attached to the fundamental principles of the inter-American system. We would also like to recognize the sensitivity and the way in which he addressed the situation in Haiti. Given his deep-seated knowledge of that country and his understanding of the people, Ambassador Savage constantly promoted mobilization of hemispheric attention on this country and international coordination to address the Haitian crisis. His commitment was ongoing in order to make sure that Haiti received the necessary support to contribute to recovering security, to strengthening its institutions, and to creating conditions that would make it possible for the Haitian people to advance towards a future of hope, development, and equality. We'd also like to highlight the exemplary manner in which he led the work of this council during his chairmanship. His work was characterized by openness to dialogue, the respect for plurality of opinions, and a genuine ability to bring positions closer together at times that are particularly complex. Under his leadership, the Permanent Council strengthened its role as the major political forum of this organization and promoted substantive debates on democratic and institutional challenges and the developments unfolding in our hemisphere. He always looked for understanding and shared solutions. Above and beyond his significant contributions professionally, which we've all had the privilege of sharing with Ambassador Savage, his work in this organization, we've been able to also appreciate his extraordinary human qualities. Ambassador Stuart was first and foremost a gentleman in exercising diplomacy, a respectful colleague, a sincere colleague, and one that was always available to listen and to help. His intellectual capacity and his capacity to work with everyone regardless of their positions or perspectives, gained him respect and the esteem of this diplomatic community. His ongoing willingness to work together for the best causes of the organization and for the hemisphere are no doubt one of the most worthy legacies of his passage through the OAS. Madam Chair, the countries of Central America and the Dominican Republic express their most sincere gratitude to Ambassador Savage for his contribution to the inter-American system, and we are convinced that the mark of his management will remain in this institution, and those of us who had the privilege of sharing with you, Ambassador, our work in the OAS. We wish you every success at this new stage of your life, and we would like to extend our best wishes for your well-being and that of your family. Have a good trip, dear friend. Thank you, Ambassador, says the chair. Colleagues, this is the first time that we are undertaking a bidding farewell under the new reform procedure. So I just recall that these are statements by regional groups only. So I would give the floor to someone to speak on behalf of CARICOM. And then if you could express your feelings to the ambassador in a more direct manner, perhaps after we conclude the meeting. So just to please take that into account. One person to represent each representative group. In this case, I give the floor to the Bahamas.
Madam Chair, seeing that CARICOM has 14 members, we were offering to do this in tandem, particularly given the invaluable work that Ambassador Savage has done in Haiti. So with your kind indulgence, I will do part one and Haiti will do the follow-up, if that meets with the favor of this council, please.
No hay una regla.
There's no rule about dividing the time, but of course, since this is the first time, and we're still refining our working methods, we will let you divide the time. Please proceed. Thank you.
Madam Chair, it's a little more than dividing the time. It's actually dividing the subject matter, because I will speak on behalf of 14 member states, and he will speak on behalf of a particular subject matter. So we can be obliged with the full 12 minutes, 6
No,
and 6.
excuse me, Ambassador, I'm going to say this in English, but the rules of the procedure didn't make any exception. We were discussing that, the document that was approved. I'm sorry to say that this is not the moment, but we were not able to accommodate exceptions on the rules of the procedure. So if you can bear with me, I don't want this to be a discussion on the rules of procedures. I will give you the time between the two delegations just to be flexible, because this is a very important issue for all of us, saying farewell for Ambassador Savage, and as in honor of his reputation on working methods, I will indulge you with the respect of working methods and the rules of the procedure as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. On behalf of 14 member states, I will try to be as brief as possible, and we shall submit the full text of our remarks. I speak on behalf of the coordinator, who in this instance is St. Kitts and Nevis. Ambassador Savage's tenure has been marked by thoughtful leadership, principled engagement, and a steadfast commitment to the ideals that underpin our inter-American system. Throughout his time at the OAS, he has distinguished himself as an active participant in some of the organization's most consequential discussions, whether on democracy, development, security, human rights, institutional reform, or the pressing challenges confronting our region. What has perhaps set Ambassador Savage apart from most has been his ability not merely to listen, but to hear. In diplomacy, those are not always the same thing. He's consistently demonstrated a willingness to engage with differing perspectives, to appreciate the realities that shape the positions of others, and to approach dialogue with openness, respect, and intellectual honesty. Those qualities have made him not only effective representative of Canada, but a trusted colleague and a valued partner around this table. Canada's decision to entrust Ambassador Savage with its representation in this most important multilateral forum was clearly a wise one. He's brought the organization a style of leadership that reflects the very best traditions of diplomacy, one grounded in cooperation, mutual respect, and recognition that while we may at times differ on matters of policy, we remain members of a common hemispheric family whose shared aspirations must ultimately prevail over disagreements. As he prepares to leave Washington, we extend our sincere gratitude for his service, his friendship, and his many contributions to the work of the OAS. And we also offer our warmest congratulations on what has been a distinguished and impactful career. Ambassador Savage, while we are sorry to see you depart, we are comforted by the knowledge that your talents, experience, and commitment to public service will undoubtedly continue to find expression wherever your next calling may lead. Madam Chair, I now cede the floor to Haiti.
Muchas gracias, embajador.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Haiti, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, if I may, I ask to speak for two reasons. Ambassador Savage, before being a permanent representative at the OAS, was the ambassador for Canada and Haiti. In addition, Ambassador Savage is the only other member of a French-speaking country of our organization. So if I may, I'd like to address him personally at that level. Mr. Ambassador, throughout your mission at the OAS, you have represented Canada with distinction, competence, skill, and dignity. You represented your country clearly while remaining attentive to the concerns of other member states. You embodied both firm diplomacy and flexible diplomacy, based on principles, open to in your methodology and constructive in mindset. For Haiti, I wanted to express our special gratitude. Canada is a very important and constant partner for Haiti. At the difficult times our country is experiencing, your delegation has always provided ongoing support and real willingness and sincere commitment to promote stability, security, and democratic governance in Haiti. We particularly appreciated the quality of dialogue with you and your team, and we've appreciated your concern, your cooperation, which marked our exchanges in the work of this organization. Your contribution to the discussions on Haiti, including the recent efforts to strengthen hemispheric coordination, was most precious. Above and beyond diplomatic stances taken, we will also remember your willingness to listen, your courtesy, your ability to ponder carefully, and your ability to seek a consensus even in the most complex situations. May the wind be behind you. Thank you, sir.
Y a vous,
Thank you, Ambassador. And now we give the floor to the Ambassador Savage. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, we have 24 seconds left. In using those 24 seconds, would you like to express
please go
that
ahead,
we will
Ambassador.
be submitting both texts to Canada and to the Permanent Council, and we will certainly miss you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Go ahead, Stuart.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you can see, we have it hard here at the OAS. Sometimes our differences of opinion bring us to not even be able to agree on how to say goodbye. But all of the words that were said were very appreciated, as well as the emotions and energy behind them. It meant a great deal to me. We have it hard here because we have a diverse, complicated hemisphere with very different point of views and very different realities. By way of example, even our geography creates challenges for us. Around this table, we have governments that are representing countries that are small island states. We have landlocked countries that have no access to the sea. We have huge transcontinental countries, and many in between those extremes. We have a variety of governance, democracy, organized crime, corruption, drug trafficking, to unprecedented forest fires, hurricanes, which are record violence, and accelerating melting of the glaciers. All of these are our challenge. And in parallel to that, the international order which we all grew up in is at a turning point. and is undergoing deep-seated change. How can we grapple with all of these formidable realities, whereas the OAS itself is also confronted with significant organizational and financial issues? My Prime Minister often mentions a sentence, quotes something, I think it's important for us, and I think it's the following. Let's never lose the opportunity of a serious crisis. It's an opportunity to prove what can be done.
It makes things possible that you never thought possible before. Madam Chair, the very genesis of the OAS as the world's oldest multilateral organization offers us a way forward. Its history and that of its predecessor bodies is exceptional and inspirational. The Inter-American System created the first world's international women's rights organization, the SIM. It created the first international health organization, the PAHO. It created the Inter-American Development Bank. Clearly, this body is capable of great things. Groundbreaking innovations, new ways to organize to meet the challenges of our hemisphere. Even in the short 3 years I've been here, I've seen the OAS play a critical role in ensuring peace and democracy in Guatemala and in Honduras. I've seen us come together in consensus to send an important message of hope for the long-suffering peoples of Venezuela and Nicaragua. We have also helped lead the way in support of our sister nation, Haiti, by last year adopting a resolution calling on the UN Security Council to take action, which led to the establishment of a new gang suppression force, which the OAS then enabled the establishment of said force through its administrative and legal support. And today, the UN Secretary General is making a historic visit to that gang suppression force, which would not have been possible without the OAS. So this is all to say that we member states in our organization can and do good and important work that matters. Let us never forget that. Indeed, let us be inspired by this past to do even greater things going forward. Again, my Prime Minister likes to say that people have the tendency to over-rationalize the past, over-dramatize the present, and underestimate the future. I call on us to see past the drama of this moment and to focus on building ever greater future together and contributing to defining the new world order that we are building together. I know personally from working with all of you around this august table that this body is full of a tremendous array of talented, caring, experienced, and dedicated professionals. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart for all that you have taught me and for helping me leave this wonderful assignment feeling a better person. I am grateful. I thank also the wonderful work of all the OAS technical teams and interpreters that enable our discussions, dialogues, and decisions. I'm also grateful to my beloved home country, Canada, for honoring me with this opportunity. Canada is a proudly bilingual nation, grounded in Indigenous lands where we share and are enriched by generations of people who have come from around the world to make it home. Especially in these turbulent times, Canada and Canadians are standing up for our home, which is the true north, strong and free. We celebrate our great country on its birthday every year on July 1st, Canada Day. As the OAS General Assembly takes place just before that, and so many colleagues take well-earned holidays right after, I'm happy to share a little bit of that celebration of Canada with you today. Some of you may have already enjoyed a few of the little Canadian maple cookies we've left out for you. But also Canada Day this year is taking place in a historic context. It is taking place as Canada welcomes the world as one of the 3 host countries of the FIFA World Cup. We are thrilled, in fact, that our GA host Panama, is playing a match today in Toronto and will play a match again during the actual General Assembly next week, Tuesday, in Toronto as we meet. So please accept the small symbols of my country that we have left behind you on your desks, these little packages. They represent our first ever co-hosting of the World Cup, the greatest party for the greatest game in the world. except ice hockey, of course. This is my last regular permanent council meeting with you. It is also to be the last for our much appreciated chair, Ambassador Alejandro Solano of Costa Rica, a great colleague and what a little group that we invented called the C4, the C4, Canada, Colombia, Chile, and Costa Rica. I would like to thank Ambassador Solano and wish her all the best as she pursues her brilliant career. Colleagues, let me finish by saying that I look forward to seeing you all, or many of you at least, at the General Assembly, where I will be proudly wearing this scarf, and I hope to see many of you wearing it, and if not this scarf, then some other sign of World Cup pride. So, mes chers amis, collègues, merci.
Dear friends, colleagues, thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Señor embajador, muchísimas gracias. Tal vez si nos ponemos de pie.
I think we can all stand. We can all rise.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much for those moving words, Ambassador. I know that there was some emotion that had to be held back. We thank you so much for your friendship and support. Please don't leave just yet. In tribute to Ambassador Savage, once we end the meeting after other business, we are going to take a photo because that's the tradition. Every time we bid farewell to an ambassador, it's nice to take a photo, a memento that Ambassador Savage can take with him. Thank you again, Ambassador, for the lovely gift. Your work, your legacy, we will remember you always with respect, fondness, and admiration. Now, colleagues, we'll move to the last item on our order of business, which is other business. As we conclude this session, and under other business, I would like to ask for your indulgence so that I can take the floor to formally conclude the period that Costa Rica had the honor of chairing at this permanent council, but also because this is my last session as permanent representative of Costa Rica to the OAS. I will be leaving the C4 as well. This was a period of intense work, but also friendship with all of you. I became chair last April with a firm belief that multilateralism can be validated through transparency, rigor, and inclusion. Over the past 3 months, I think we can say proudly that this body was able to meet the challenges of our hemisphere. These have been 3 months with long and intense working days, with highly sensitive and intense debates. For this chair, it was a methodological priority to be as open as possible in these deliberations. We are pleased that we were able to have open, informal sessions for all member states to ensure that every voice and constructive position could be heard around the table. We guided this work with full respect for the rules of procedure, legal certainty, order, and the belief that we must conduct ourselves appropriately as chair. We were able to successfully conclude the lengthy preparations for the 56th regular session of the General Assembly, which will bring us together very shortly in Panama. We are just 5 days away from the opening of the GA. The very long days of negotiating resolutions and declarations are a faithful reflection of our commitment to the future of this region. I would like to express my deepest and sincerest thanks to each and every one of you dear colleagues. Thank you for your questions over procedure and methodology. This was a very stimulating period. Thank you so much for your ongoing support, political will, and willingness to overcome any differences, and for your invaluable support to this chair that allowed us to successfully conclude our work at the end of these 3 months. I would also like to thank the Secretary General and Assistant Secretary General, as well as the entire team from the Secretariat, particularly the team from the Technical Secretariat of the Permanent Council, whose work has been so fundamental. Don Rodrigo Cortes and Doña Rosana, who provided so much excellent support to the Permanent Council and to the delegation of Costa Rica. Thank you so much. We are so proud that we are a small delegation, but yet we were able to be present at all of the negotiations, and we were able to be successful in all of these initiatives that you supported us with. And I feel a great deal of nostalgia as I reach the end of my term as chair, but also because I am leaving the OAS. We're all human beings, and we've developed a deep friendship over these years of working together and negotiating late into the night. And I will carry you all with me in my heart, and I am so pleased that we accomplished our mission. Allow me to reiterate my friendship and gratitude. I thank you as chair of the Permanent Council, and I wish you all the greatest success in this last phase of the process as we approach the start of the General Assembly. And I will be giving the floor shortly to Secretary General Ramdeen, who was asked to take the floor under other business, and there will also be a few other announcements by the chair. Secretary General, you have the floor.
Very much, Madam President, and you're not used for me to ask the floor, but I think it's a fitting occasion to do so today for several reasons. One, of course, I want to extend and all the accolades which have been addressed to Ambassador Savage as my own, just to win time, to gain time in terms of my intervention. But I thank you very much for the frankness, for the rational, substantive discussions which you had on the Inter-American system, on the Organization of American States, all very valuable conversations which we had over the past couple of months during your term in office. I wish you all the best going forward, and I'm sure Canada will gain from your experience here, as we will make good use of your experience and your dedication to this organization. So thank you very much. I do want to recognize also that another colleague of us left the organization a little bit in a haste, Ambassador Anthony Anderson, and also I would like to express and extend my thanks to him for, again, very practical, rational discourse we had over the time, and he did not stay for long, but I know he is doing great work in Jamaica where he was needed more. So please extend my thanks to him as well on behalf of the General Secretariat. I want to thank the chairman of the PC, Ambassador Solano, for the extremely intensive and dedicated work done over the past couple of weeks in different capacities, but the past 3 months have been very intensive and not easy at times, but she survived with a smile. So I want to thank her. I know that there will be another opportunity to say thank you to you, but for today, as this is your last meeting, I'd like to add that to my remark. Thank you very much. As we all prepare, or some of us prepare to travel to Panama, of course, I want to thank Panama for hosting the General Assembly. And like all of us, we look forward to a robust, substantive, forward-looking General Assembly that will benefit the hemisphere, benefit the people of the Americas, benefit the agenda of this organization. And in that regard, I'd like to thank all member states and delegates, permanent observers, for their contribution to the process, which has not been easy. But I'm happy to see that a minimum of resolutions will go forward to the General Assembly for further discussions, and I hope some of that can be concluded in Panama City. That would be great. I think which we want to demonstrate as an institution is that there is functionality, there is progress, and we go in a direction, as Ambassador mentioned, the times have changed, and time is changing, is evolving, but multilateralism remains one of the principal ways to progress collectively. And I hope that we will see that collectivity in Panama, as Minister Acha here appealed to, in a very constructive way. I want to specifically thank those who have worked on the budget 27. I know it wasn't easy. We have done our best to make sure that that is delivered, and you have done your best to come up with what is acceptable. I want to, without disregarding any other chair of the different committees, I want to thank Ambassador Benoni for the extremely hard work he has done. Very knowledgeable in terms of navigating all kinds of streams with regard to the budget and the discussions which we had privately and in collectivity to make sure that there is a budget at the General Assembly this year to be discussed and hopefully to be approved as well. In whatever form that will be in the end, but then I think that's another good message which we sent out to the hemisphere and to the world, that this organization is disciplined and is able to deliver when it has to. I want to thank all our own staff for preparing for that and supporting you. If there are issues which did not work out well, our apologies, but I think with the best intentions it was done. I want to thank the team of the ASG for on the ground working with Panama as up till the last moment to make sure that all logistical and organizational preparations are done. And all I can say is safe travel to Panama for those who are traveling, and we'll meet there again. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, señor.
Thank you very much, Secretary General. I now offer the floor for any delegation that wishes to take the floor to share informational, for informational purposes, rather. Ecuador has the floor. Since this is the time to share informational announcements, I would like to share that the mission of Ecuador has taken due note that you are leaving us, dear Chair Alejandra, and we've also taken note that our dear Stewart will also be leaving us. I just want to reflect for the minutes here that, as the Prime Minister of Canada said, we should not waste the opportunity of a crisis. And I'd like to quote Leonard Cohen, a Canadian poet. The paths that you have built together, all in your different ways, will continue to illuminate our memories here. Thank you very much for allowing me to share those words. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you very much for those kind words. And I would now like to share with you that this is our last session prior to Panama. And as part of our logistical preparations, allow me also to thank the Assistant Secretary General Laura Gil for all of the work that she's done to coordinate with our hosts in Panama. I believe that the tags have already been distributed with the Panamanian logo and on it, and it's important for you to use those tags on your luggage when we get to Panama's airport. The Secretariat of the Permanent Council will distribute tomorrow the full list of all of the official documents for the General Assembly, which will include all of the decisions and agreements that we have adopted at today's session. Colleagues, I would like to wish you safe travels to Panama City. It has been an honor and a privilege to share this space with you and to chair this permanent council with you and with the help of my team who have helped us and have provided so much help and support. We will see each other very soon in Panama, and thank you so much again for all of your work over the past few months. This has been a learning experience that I shared with you, and as a delegate, this has also been very important for me, both personally and professionally. So, once again, my deepest gratitude to all delegations. This session stands adjourned. And of course, with the United States, we invite you to join us for the ceremony on the Marquis de Lafayette in Marcus Garvey Hall. Thank you. The session is adjourned.